Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Franchise Flywheel, the only free webinar series exclusive to only franchisees. My name is Heather, and I'm going to be your behind-the-scenes moderator for today's webinar. We're so excited to have you here today as we have 3 hours packed with some fabulous industry professionals. A few housekeeping notes before we get started, though. You'll notice this is a webinar. You don't have to access your screen. You don't have to have your microphone on. We just want you to be able to sit back and relax and absorb the content. So no need to worry about that camera face. If you hover over the bottom of your screen, your control bar will come up. On that toolbar, you'll find ways to interact with both myself behind the scenes if you're having a problem, as well as your speakers and fellow attendees. Make sure to engage. This is a great community, and you definitely want to reach out to each other. Keep an eye on that chat box, as relevant links will also be sent to you there based on what our speakers are talking about. There will be a Q&A after most of our speakers, so type in your question into the Q&A box for them to see. Not every question will have a chance to be answered, but our speakers are definitely reading them. This presentation will also be recorded. A video file, slides, and all relevant links will be sent out post-event. All right, that's enough housekeeping. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you guys to your host for today's webinar. First off, we have Brian Holmes. Brian is the CEO of Franchise Ramp, the premier franchise digital marketing agency built for franchisees by franchisees. Brian is also the co-host of the Franchise Story podcast and one of the most listened to podcasts in the franchising industry. Along with Brian, we have Erik Van Horn. Erik is the Franchise Flywheel co-founder who's been franchising for 18 years as a franchisee, franchisor, and investor and consultant. He's the host of Franchise Secrets podcast and the founder of Franchise Tribe, a mastermind for growth-minded franchisees. All right, thank you guys. It's great to have you here, and why don't you two take it away?
Hey Erik, how's it going? Are you ready for this today? Hey man, how's it going? You ready to launch this awesome webinar off today?
Ready or not, I'm pumped.
Yeah, this week I actually took one of those personality tests. It's called the Culture Index. Have you ever taken any of those tests that like identify your, kind of talk about your personality and your natural attributes?
Well, geez, Brian, now that was not planned. You totally put me on the spot there. So just so if anybody knows, they think that this is all planned and rehearsed, absolutely not. So I have taken some of those. I've done the color code and DISC and stuff. I'm high DI on DISC.
Yeah, the only reason I brought that up is that every time I take one of those tests, it reminds me that I'm a very introverted person that hates public speaking, yet somehow you managed to convince me to start a podcast and to do a webinar series where we have to get up in front of a bunch of people and talk. How exactly did you pull that off?
I don't know. I just don't want to be alone in doing things. So I'm good at recruiting. If you look at my past businesses, I'm good at recruiting good partners. So
yeah. All right. So for everybody attending, welcome to Franchise Flywheel event number 2. So for the people who didn't attend event number 1, I just want to kind of give like a little rundown of what Franchise Flywheel is, why Erik and I decided to start it. So fundamentally what Franchise Flywheel is it's an event series that's right now virtual that we hope very soon will be in person and virtual, that's targeted just for franchisees. Both Erik and I have been in the franchise industry for a really long time. We've been to IFA events, we've been to conventions, we've been to all kinds of different things at the franchisor and franchisee level. And what we found is that there was nothing specifically created for franchisees, and we saw the need. And so just like any other good entrepreneurs, we're like, hey, let's solve that need. Let's get out there. Let's create something for franchisees. So we had event number 1 that was great. I really enjoyed the process. It was 2 hours. It was amazing content. We had over 200 registrations, and we learned a ton, right, Erik?
Oh yeah, we learned a ton. We learned some of the things that we did well, some things that we can improve on. And more than anything, we learned that there is an incredible demand for this. Like we got the emails and talking to people, having real conversations, like the demand was something that just reinforced why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what we want from you guys as attendees is to really help us out and like help us understand, after you attend today, what it is that you're looking for as franchisees so that we can create it for you. We took the lessons that we learned in the first one and made a lot of changes to our process for today. So just a little bit more of a recap. So Franchise Flywheel is a series of virtual and in-person events. It's going to be focused on motivation, inspiration, expert franchisee panels, and opportunities to network with other like-minded franchisees. In my personal franchise experience and journey, I spent the first 10 years of my franchise journey only in one brand, only talking with franchisees from the same brand. And that gave me a limited perspective and understanding that the problems that I faced as a franchisee weren't just unique to Liberty Tax Service, which is where I started my franchise journey. They were actually something that you see in almost all brands. And the more time I spent with franchisees from other brands, I realized that there were different ways to solve the problems that I was facing. Because in a lot of times in a single brand, you try to solve the same problem over and over the same way because there's just, that's how we do it. My partner in Franchise Ramp talks a lot about this story about cutting ends off of a ham. I'm sure we'll get him on here and tell it at some point in time, and how you can do things over and over repetitively just because that's how you did it in the past. And we want to expose franchisees to different ways of thinking, to other franchisees, to other systems, so they can kind of get past, that limited perspective of, my problems are just related to the brand that I'm within. So, or opportunities too.
And think about that. I mean, this isn't just some woo-woo, elevate your thinking, think differently. With you just start listening to the conversations when around people that you respect, they're doing things in business that you right now don't think you'll ever be able to do, and ask them some questions on how they think, who they learn from, and how they push their boundaries to get to where they are. And Brian, you and I have talked to a lot of those people, and they surround themselves with people that are way above them and learning, and they learn from them. And it really is a different way of thinking. And that's real high level, dropping it down to the basics. We are seeing things in my current franchise. We had to get past some mental mindsets. And once we did that, we just saw growth.
Yeah, I always kind of say that you have more in high-performing franchisees have more in common with high-performing franchisees in other brands and other concepts than they do with the low-performing franchisees within their own systems. And that tells me a lot. Like, you see the same characteristics between high-performing people in at-home services, beauty, fitness, restaurants, hotels. Like, you just see the same way of thinking, the same way of looking at problems, same way of like solving those problems. And that's, more of what we want to expose you guys to. So today for our agenda, it is jam-packed. Like I said, the first one we did 2 hours. 2 hours was awesome. We thought what would be better than 2 hours. So we went to 3, and we had these big plans, these big goals. So we couldn't even jam-pack everything into 3 hours. So technically today is going to go to 2:15. Hopefully most of you guys could stay on until the very, very end. So I'm just going to walk you guys through the agenda, real quick. So first up, we have what we're going to call Power Talks. So Power Talks are conversations that we're going to have with rockstar franchisees. So we have 3 franchisees on that have unique experience within the franchise industry and ones that we respect a ton. That's why they're here. So the first one's David Shuck. David Shuck is a multi-unit, multi-brand, multi-state franchisee that is, despite being in one of the industries most impacted by COVID-19 and, the things that are happening this year, he is. So besides the things are impacting this year, he also is continuing to grow. JD Busch is someone that just thinks big. He is a big multi-unit, multi-concept regional developer. And then Tom Hough is a rockstar franchisee that not only is a rockstar in his own sense, but also coaches other franchisees to be a rockstar. After the Power Talks, and this is something that we learned a lot about, right, Erik? So in the original session that we did, the first one, we brought everybody on the same time. And so we brought them on the same time, and we felt that didn't get the most out of each one. So we're going to dig deep with all of them and really dig into what it is that is unique and special about that person's story in franchising and what they can provide to the audience. After that, we have an expert from ADP coming on, Shannon Dorton, who is going to talk to us about the information and the experience that they're that they're getting at ADP, I thought, franchisees, employees are one of our biggest problems. In any business, they're one of our biggest problems. Who would know more about that than an expert from ADP? After Shannon, we're going to take a 5-minute break. So we really don't have a lot of breaks built into this schedule because it is so jam-packed. And then we're going to have Apollo Emeka come on. Apollo is a close friend of mine and just a really, really interesting person. He not only was in the FBI, he was a Green Beret, he has his PhD, and he's one of the best leadership coaches in the game right now. And he was also a Liberty Tax Service franchisee. So he's going to bring a presentation that I cannot wait to hear. After Apollo, then we're going to have Ryan Casey on. Ryan Casey, absolute rock star franchisee, Orange Theory Fitness franchisee, one of the best sales coaches in the franchise industry at this time. And so he's gonna bring some of that value to the stage. So that's the agenda that we have packed for you guys and planned for you guys today. I really hope everyone can stay on the entire time because every single presentation is going to add value to all of the attendees.
What's next, Brian? What do we want to talk about? We've got a few things. I want to ask you some questions about
Sure.
like what's happening in COVID. Is this the time to do it? Or do you want to talk about 2021?
Yeah, I think what we want to talk about is we made our session, our part really short to make sure that everybody else had a lot of value. But I think the thing I want to talk about a little bit today is goal setting for 2021 and how everybody is coming to 2021 in probably a different place than they thought they would be. Some of them are coming in, they actually had a rock star year in 2021. My friends in the home services industry, they're super excited, they're super pumped. They had a great year. Friends in the fitness industry or beauty are coming into it in completely different places. And then me and you are coming at it from a completely different places. And I wanted to share, that idea that we're all coming from a different place and our expectations for next year don't need to be compared.
Yeah. I mean, you and I've had different conversations. Like what do we do? What am I doing? You asked me the other day, like, where's my mindset? What am I doing in 2021? And all of a sudden my goals are like getting really, really high. And you're like, you had different goals than I do. Yeah. And one's not better or worse just because you have high goals, whether it's a revenue standpoint or whatever, maybe it's more people focused goals or personal focused goals versus business goals. It doesn't matter as long as you have goals and you know where you're going. And you and I, we've been at different places with goals at different times. It wasn't too long ago, even earlier, before COVID, I had different goals than I have today. And I've changed things to match the goals that I have today. So what do you, where's your mindset? Where are you headed with your goals for 2021?
Yeah, I think when we had this conversation, I said 2021, I'm probably going to have the lowest level of goals I've ever had in my entrepreneurial journey. 2020 was, my Club Pilates business, we were closed for 7 months, because they're all in California. And we're also going through, complete state lockdown, as of, today, again, for that market. And to me, 2021 is just about blocking and tackling. It's really just about the fundamentals. There are no huge goals, big revenue goals. It's all about the details, paying attention to how we are executing the micro components of the business, because I think that's what's going to drive my success versus 2021. It isn't throwing up a big number or, this big goal. It's really just fundamentals. And I think that that's great. My ego probably would have never let me set such limited goals 5 years ago.
Well, it's interesting. Like, so I have some big goals for this year. We launched Mighty Dog Roofing with my partners in that. There's 4 of us main partners, and we have big goals, at least 40 new franchisees for 2021. And that's a big goal considering awesome. My biggest, that franchisor is new to me. And I've been an area developer where we had the most, 40 locations in my area development. And that's not even area development's kind of like a franchisor. So this is big for me. And then just, all that entails from the revenue standpoint and the managing standpoint and the marketing. So my goals, especially through Mighty Dog Roofing, have exploded for 2021, like what we're going to do, because we even had a choice. Do we grow small or do we go big? And just given the circumstances, there's a lot of different reasons that I won't get into. We're going big. And that means doing a lot of hiring and being prepared to do that. So Mighty Dog Roofing, really, really big goals for that. in personal investing goals this year,
Uh-huh.
much lower. I'm using
Uh-huh.
this as a year to learn more about investing. I invested a lot in 2021 in passive income type deals, which
Uh-huh.
were great. I'm getting checks from that, but I am putting more of my cash into other things. So I have fear of missing out, FOMO, because I see my buddies going to all these cool deals. Last year I would have gone all in, but this
Uh-huh.
year I can't. And I'm really okay with that because this is a year to learn. 2021 is a year to learn about that versus like execute on a bunch of passive income investing opportunities. So, for me, and then I think that one of the things that, do you mind if I talk about like what I see the best thing that happened out of COVID?
Yeah. Let's talk
Because
about
I was in a mastermind call the other day and someone asked the question, what is the best thing that happened to you really because of COVID? And after a minute of thinking about it, it hit me. I started a Facebook group because of COVID. And that Facebook group filled up with franchisees that needed help. And
Uh-huh.
because of that, I launched a mastermind out of that group. Now we have 600, 700 people in that Facebook group. We launched a mastermind out of that. And I have a lot of new friends right now, 70 plus people in the mastermind that I get to help and they get to help me. And there's real friendships that are formed out of that. And so that, as I look back, that would have never happened if COVID hadn't happened. Now, do I wish COVID hadn't happened? Absolutely. But, I am super grateful for that. And I firmly believe that I will be further ahead in 5 years than where I would have been without COVID. And it's because of the decisions that I'm making and the people that I'm meeting.
Yeah, there's nothing like trial by fire to form strong bonds, right? So I think that this is a great year to focus on community. That's one of the reasons that we are launching Flywheel, is because we want to give people the opportunity to connect with other franchisees. It can be isolating if you just look at your own location in your own market. You don't even go out to people within your own brand. We want you to reach out to the whole franchising community. One of our favorite quotes is that you're, in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And we want to make that a reality for everyone.
Yeah, I've been amazed just, talking to different franchisees, the ones that are having a hard time. There's two different mindsets of people that are having a hard time. I know people that are losing massive amounts of money right now.
Mm-hmm.
They were making massive amounts of
Mm-hmm.
money, millions, and now they're losing millions, but they are staying the course and they know what they're doing and they're investing into their team and they're doing what it takes to come out on the other side of this. And so then I've talked to others that are just crumbling right now in fear and they're paralyzed and they don't know what to do. And so we want to bring, with the Flywheel, bring in the people that are doing big things, and not even just big things, but things that they can be doing to have an impact on their business. So, and you only get that with community. So if this is your community, stay connected to this community, because we're going to do what we can to help franchisees, whether they're crushing it or getting crushed right now.
That's right. That's right. And, there's something very inspiring about being around somebody with that positive mindset. Like maybe you are in a negative place and you don't see the light at the other end of the tunnel, but maybe that one thing that just needs to click for you is seeing somebody that looks at it with a completely different perspective. And they're like, hey, COVID is great. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my business. I learned what was important and what I want to focus on. Just before we bring on David, I just want to bring up back to circle around to the idea that this is about you and your journey. You as the franchisee, your journey, your business, your reality, and setting goals that make sense to you. So be inspired today, but don't feel guilty if your goal is simply, a 10%, or getting back to where you were before COVID is an amazing goal for a lot of people. It's probably the closest thing that I could say to my own goal is I want to just get to where we were in February of this year. If we can get there by June, I'm going to be ecstatic about it. So.
No, some of the goals that I have it's just getting around more like-minded people. Like I've seen the value, like the actual tangible ROI on being around the right people. And you don't have to pay to be around the right people. You don't, you just have to take the time and the effort to get around them. And I've seen the value in that, and I see it more than ever before, Brian. Like I'm actually putting time in my calendar to connect with people. I was talking to a billionaire the other day, and he gave me his cell phone number. He said, "Hey, Erik, next time you're in Florida, reach out to me. Let's grab lunch." And I look back, and it's been weeks that have gone by, and I haven't reached out to him. And it hit me this morning, like, why haven't I reached out to him? And I have other people that are not billionaires, because I don't know many billionaires. I have other people that are just starting their journey that I want to reach out to with the same level of effort as the billionaire guy. And so for me, like, I just want to be intentional with relationships.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so we got to get David on. So introduce David. David Shuck, like I said, absolute rock star franchisee. I've known him for more than a decade. He's a multi-unit, multi-brand franchisee. He owns Liberty Tax Services in his hometown in North Carolina, where he lives. He owns Club Pilates locations in Raleigh, in Dallas. And the coolest thing about David right now is he's not curling up in a ball. He's thinking about how can he grow his business? How can he achieve his goals? And that's inspiring to me. And I hope that's going to be inspiring to you guys. David, welcome to the webinar. Hey, David, how's it going? Where are you at?
I'm in Dallas. I'm in Dallas. Yeah.
All right.
So having a blast.
Cool.
I'm actually in the hotel room.
Yeah. So let's share a little bit real quick about your story and your kind of mindset. Like, I led up with, hey, David's got a completely different perspective than me. You came and visited, I don't know, a month and a half ago, and we went to dinner and we talked about David's goals for, the rest of 2020 and for 2021, and they were completely different than mine. So let's talk about your thought process around building and growing in 2021.
Yeah, great question. Before I start, I also took the Culture Index just Monday of this week. So that's crazy that we did it at the same time. But
yeah, it's very interesting.
It is. Anyway, yeah, I really am excited about 2021. Obviously, hate the idea of COVID, hate that it happened. It's had, outside of business, it's really had an impact on this country and families, and you just feel for the people that it's impacted. When I think about my business and get out of that, thinking about everybody else, when I think about the business and the environment with COVID, I really think of it as it's presented an opportunity, and it's presented an opportunity for a reset. So we're coming into a new year. At the same time, we have a vaccine on the horizon, and there's a pretty good feeling from most of the world that there will be another side of COVID. There will be a post-COVID. So I just view this 2021 as a great opportunity for a reset, a review of what things worked, how we overcame. I really see it as an opportunity to lead teams and find opportunities to continue to grow. I'm excited to be in Liberty Tax. That's been a great business through COVID. We've been able to be very flexible in meeting the ways that our customers want to be worked with COVID. We've been very nimble in doing that, and that business actually did very well and persevered through COVID. Really excited about the fitness, and I know that's a little contrary, but very excited with how my Club Pilates, the studios, performed through COVID. Obviously, we were impacted. However, when I strip aside a lot of the top layer things and look underneath it, the actual product we continue to provide, the teams and the people that we have, and the customer experience, I really am very encouraged about how that's going to continue to perform and grow once we've taken away this massive weight that COVID is on all of our businesses. So very excited about continuing to grow with Club Pilates and continuing to look for more opportunities.
Yeah, and one thing I think is interesting about your specific situation is that you didn't just have locations in Florida or Georgia or even just Texas, right? That were treated, completely differently than what's happening in North Carolina. In Raleigh, you guys were closed, as long as really anybody, was, right? Maybe not as bad as California and New York or some of those states, but and still you have that perspective, like, hey, I'm going to double down. I'm going to keep going. Where do you think that comes from?
You, Brian, you and Erik, all those conversations over the years and encouragement. But I think about that, and I think not to brag, I do feel very confident about the positive attitude that I have, and I enjoy the process of figuring out how to overcome problems, how to overcome adversity. I'm an athlete. My dad's been a football coach well, he's not anymore, he's retired, but he was a football coach for more than 50 years. And I always heard, even from my coaches, but I always heard from my dad, every football game has some adversity in it. And the only way to win is you have to persevere through that. That was true, growing up. That was true in all of my athletic, endeavors, playing basketball. You just don't, because you have a team that's beating you, that doesn't mean you give up. You play through to the whistle, you play to the end of the game. If you lose, you review things, figure out where it went wrong, and come back stronger the next game. I hate to be cliche, but I think that has a lot to do with my mindset, is my athletic background.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Go ahead, Erik.
Was there a point when, like, as you're evaluating, because you know yourself, one of the things I heard in that, yourself and what you're confident in your own ability, and that's through some trial and error and difficulty and adversity at different times. So you believed in yourself, number one, and then number two, you believed in the brand, and you knew that well enough to know what markets to go into, which ones to stay away from. Like, talk about that, like some of the decision-making points between when COVID first hit and to when you started to execute.
Yeah, I mean, I think like everybody else, when COVID hit, it was all right, let's step back. Let's assess what our worst cases are, what the let's make sure we don't break anything. Let's not make decisions that are snap decisions that will have long-term impact. Let's just sort of take a pause and see what our options are. As COVID went on, like Brian said, it's really been an opportunity to pay attention to details and get into the fundamentals, blocking and tackling of business. But I tell you what, this last month, as we're coming out of COVID, both in North Carolina and Raleigh, we've had key people annual meetings for all my businesses, both in North Carolina. Just had mine in Texas yesterday. Had it for my accounting business last week. And the thing that I'm so encouraged about is the discussion, the vibe, the mentality from all of our key folks is not a looking backwards. It is a excitement. It's a how are we going to meet the customers where they're at? For example, with Liberty, how are we going to change to meet our customers' expectation of being COVID safe, right? So we're encouraging drop-offs. We have more virtual options. We have different ways of working with our customers, and our team is all in. We're looking for solutions, not for reasons to say poor me. On the fitness side, it's just very encouraging that we have people that are passionate about their craft. And I say it all the time. The underlying product really does matter. At the end of the day, the COVID weight will be lifted, right? And when it's lifted, the companies and the businesses that have strong people delivering a good product are going to win at the end. And I'm so excited to lead some people that are all in on creating that great product.
Yeah, I think an important takeaway for everybody listening is that positive problem solving mindset doesn't happen by mistake. That is a top-down example that you're setting for both of your organizations to say, like, hey guys, you probably just don't want to hear excuses or poor me's, and you want to hear solutions and a path forward, and that's what you're getting from your team.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Well
And
said.
so, one thing a lot of people on here are probably thinking about, and maybe not, their goal doesn't involve going to like multiple brands, in 2021, but at some point they want to go beyond their current brand. What does the tax business have to do with the fitness business? I don't see any comparison. I really do, but
Yeah, they're actually, I mean, they're actually a good bit of similarities. A couple of thoughts on that question. I was at a point in my journey where I was looking for something more. I was looking for another project, another challenge. I had always had the idea that the fitness industry was something I wanted to get in, and actually give a lot of credit to you, both you and Erik, for bringing the Club Pilates idea into my head. So, came upon it and really was excited about that new project. At the same time, I did not want to. It does not fit with the goals that I have and the mentality that I have to sell. So I was able to keep a great team, a great foundation at Liberty Tax, while I grew this other brand. It's really worked well. The seasonality of Liberty, and the ability of our folks to do a great job has really been a benefit to Club Pilates, because it's enabled me to continue to reinvest profits from the studios into growth. As far as similarities, I'll tell you, business is business. So one of the things that's exciting when I think about growing units, growing studios, growing tax offices, is building teams, developing people, solving problems, and helping people grow. One of the best things about multi-unit is taking somebody that comes in as a part-time employee, talking to them about their personal goals, and being able to see over the years them go from a part-time employee, maybe a stay-at-home mom, to a office or studio manager, to a district manager, to potentially a franchisee. So helping people in that personal growth really is cool. Last thought, the running both businesses actually does provide really good opportunities for perspective. So people are people. My experiences with Liberty Tax has really helped me with my Club Pilates journey, and I imagine my Club Pilates journey will help me with the next phase whenever that happens. Because at the end of the day, with business, if you surround yourself with good people, they're all very similar, and whether they're in a tax office or in a Pilates studio, a lot of lessons can be gleaned from that.
Brian, before you go, it just hit me. We're all from the tax business. We talk about adversity and doing hard things. That comes from the tax industry. That is a difficult industry. And as I've looked at the people that have come out of that industry, and we've said it before, David and a lot of our friends have gone on to do many incredible things, going into different brands, multi-brand ownership, starting their own franchise brands, doing so many things. And in the time of the adversity, we never thought that, like, oh, this is great, we're learning a ton. But it can be said, like, man, if you can make it in the tax business, anything else is going to be easy.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to give anybody consolation here, like, hey, the harder your first franchise experience is, the easier your second one will be, potentially, right? Like, you learn a ton. So we don't have a lot of minutes left. We have about 5 minutes left. And a lot of this is inside baseball because I know David so well. But David, you have customized how you run your businesses for your personality and what you like. So could you dig a little bit or share a little bit, like how you structure your days, how you structure your weeks, and like what really works for you to run your businesses?
Great question. That is true. If I think about it, I really do focus on trying to build this machine that I call my businesses. Try to build it with my strengths, with my weaknesses, with all of that in mind. At the same time, craft it around, making sure that I am a catalyst to the growth of the business versus weighting it down. So I think the big answer, the big and the small answer, the big answer to that is the way I'm running it now might be completely different from how I run it and craft my businesses, 10 years from now. So I think it's a evolving answer to that. The small answer is right now, I am really, really focused. Actually, my culture index was philosopher. So how about that? So I'm really focused on developing key people, developing teams, monitoring our core processes in every business, and just focusing on that. I try not to get into the weeds. I'm really big on empowering people, making sure expectations are very well defined up front, empower people to make decisions, allow them to make potentially different decisions than I would make. But at the end of the day, helping them develop their own leadership skills, their own decision-making skills, their own management skills. To me, that's been something fun. I enjoy it. So far, it has worked. Our teams really buy into that from top to bottom. As a sales rep, a front of the line staff member really enjoys the ability to be empowered to make some decisions and enjoys the idea of being able to grow within our organization. Couple other things on the personal side, I really try to tie my personal productivity to the way my mind works. Sometimes I don't fight it. So I have energy levels that are not consistent. So I might not be ready to go at 9 a.m. every day of the week. So I've learned over time, it's better for me to identify those times that I am high energy, that I am in the zone, so to speak, and really double down on those. So that might be at 1 o'clock. All of a sudden it hits me, I get in that mood, and I will accomplish something in the next 5 hours that would take me a whole week to do if I were out of that. So I really try to identify when I'm in that work mode, that productivity mode, and really go crazy when I get to that point.
Yeah, it's really one of the most unique systems that I know of, like for running high performing and successful business, the way David runs it. And I think the real key is that you optimize it for you. Like you don't have standing meetings. Like, yeah. I don't think there's very many other people who are like, hey, I just refuse to have a standing meeting. I'll call you during this window. When it's, I love it. It's like understanding yourself, and optimizing the company for you, not for a book that you read that said, this is how you have to do it.
Yeah. And that's come through trial and error, right? So I've tried different things. I've done it a bunch of different ways. I think the phase I'm in right now, I'm comfortable with. It can very well change next month. But I love the way that, and that's part of the fun, right?
It is, absolutely.
Figuring out, trying new things and seeing how they go. But I think the one important thing is everybody on my team knows where I'm at. They know where I stand with them. I care about the people that are on our teams. They know that, and we try to align ourselves to grow together. And I think that's where a lot of the fun comes from.
That's awesome. All right, everybody who has questions, we're going to jump from David right now. We're going to bring in JD, and all of the panelists are going to come back for a Q&A at the end of the session. So David, thanks so much for what you've brought to the audience so far. So our next guest is JD Busch. JD is just as interesting in every way as David is. So JD thinks big. I remember when I first bought my Liberty Tax Service regional development, and I bought like Central California, and I thought that was huge. JD doesn't buy cities, he buys states. So he is one of the biggest regional developers that I know. And through being a great regional developer, he has coached franchisees, helped franchisees, but he's not just a great regional developer, he's also a great franchisee. He was the 2015 IFA Franchisee of the Year. So JD, welcome to Franchise Flywheel.
Oh yeah, we could go on JD forever.
Yeah, so JD, welcome to Franchise Flywheel. Excited to have you on. JD's actually my neighbor. He only lives like a couple miles down the road. So
that is correct. We got to meet up for a couple drinks the other day.
That's right. Very therapeutic in 2020 to hang out with some other franchisees. So JD, like I said in your intro, let's give a little bit of context of like what you've done in your franchise journey. How you went from being, how you became a regional developer, why you like regional development models, and like what's empowered you as, to think big in this industry.
I mean, I think it's like all of us, you start in one direction and get pulled and taken in other directions. But obviously I started very young, senior in college, and did a multi-unit, my first friend, I guess aspect into franchising, and got lucky with a concept where they said, hey, have you ever thought about regional developer? And I was like, I don't even know what that is, but sure, why not? So I got the chance of being a regional developer in a massage brand, obviously ended up being the most successful regional developer. Found out that I absolutely love getting people into business and supporting them and help them be successful. Teaching people, kind of what I've learned. And obviously, as I've told everybody, I've made every mistake possible. I just try not to make the same mistakes twice. So I've definitely been able to teach and coach and work with a lot of different people with really going through not making the same mistakes I made. I think we've all made mistakes throughout the day, being how do you, develop, how do you build your team, how do you support not only your own locations, but support franchisees. It's two completely different methodologies, obviously. And I really believe that you need to have completely separated. Your support team needs to be fully supporting and helping franchisees be successful, and having an operations team to help grow and develop my own stores as well.
So having coached and like brought all these people into franchising, maybe we should give everybody a context. So when I say you're a large regional developer, what does that mean? Like when how did you go about building your regional developments? How big were they? Let's share that context.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously that's the same thing. I started with one region, which was Houston, which obviously is not a small area like some of you guys started in. We ended up getting just over 30 plus locations there. Bought a second region and territory and developed that. And then of course, really got into helping develop and launching, another beauty brand. So as a part of the whole launching of the whole concept, which obviously led into not only me being the largest franchisee, but obviously being the largest developer with buying, 3 states. So basically I had Texas, Georgia, and Florida, which has been kind of my reign to where I really love those states. Now I have a really good, franchise community and kind of connecting, the same thing with how I met Erik, obviously was through that brand as well, and helped lead him get into that brand back in the day as well.
So within those brands and those developments, how many franchisees do you think that you've worked with?
I mean, just with the last brand, I'd sold about 135 locations. I was up to about 75, 80 open in one brand, had over 30 in another. So I was about 125, 127 total locations that were under my portfolio. Obviously, I own locations and franchise, but obviously it was 90% franchise and 10%, owned myself and developed.
Mm-hmm. When I was talking earlier about being around people that are doing things bigger than you, I remember meeting JD a number of years ago. And because up to that point, I was one of the bigger franchisees in the systems, or area developers or regional developers in the systems. And then I met JD. I'm like, holy cow, there's a whole nother level to this thing. And I just remember asking him a lot of questions. And one of the questions that I remember asking him, I'm going to ask it right now. What did your team look like? Because I think we all want to grow bigger. We all, except for Brian, he doesn't want to do anything else in 2021. But those are wanting to get bigger. It's not always better, for one thing. But if you are wanting to go big, what does your team look like, or what did it look like kind of at the peak?
I mean, the team is everything. And I'll be honest with you, my growth and, my success has been by the team that I built around me. I learned very quickly that, even though when I very started, I thought, micromanage, I'm sure like everybody did, thought I'm the best at everything. And I got over that really quick. I learned that find the best at whatever that you don't like to do. It doesn't matter if it's training or support, selling franchise, whatever it might be. And obviously my main passion, to be honest with you, is the development side, the franchise sales side. I really love that more than anything. And I really, over 25 years, since I've been a franchise 25 years, but it took me to really build that team. I mean, I've probably made the same mistakes as everybody else. I've hired big resumes and big, people that look great and shiny and wonderful because they came from big concepts, and that's bit me in the butt sometimes. I've learned, like you said, you're talking about cultural index, not that it's perfect, but personalities and how you work together as a team. Just building that kind of, like you said, friendship. And I consider, all of my staff and team as partners. I feel that, we all help each other in different ways. We help push each other. We help drive our success. And obviously having great people is 10 to none. You have to have great people surrounding you for any success to happen. And again, I can't say enough. I've just been very, very fortunate to have unbelievable people around me. Obviously, I've been very fortunate, like I said, I think Erik said about recruiting. I actually got smart and just tried to go after my largest, best operating franchisees and have them come in and work together. And having people that even ran billion-dollar companies that are technically running my business, today, that have had that super high level planning, putting things in place. Because again, the same thing I think we've all probably done is we've developed and grown and not have the team in place to really support it and do it properly. So obviously, it's always about money. It's about raising and having things that you didn't have before. Obviously, I've done a lot of speaking on how to grow a brand on a shoestring budget, but I don't really believe in that anymore. I think that it's very, very important that you have people in place and you have everything, put together before you ever launch. You have your team and your processes and, intact. And of course, it's different now. 25 years later, I have a war chest. I have a team of people. I have people that I'm surrounded with, like you guys, to be able to really, talk with and, talk through the problems and issues. Obviously, I don't know if Erik is, but, Brian and I are in some business groups together. All those sounding boards and people that you surround yourself with is really, how you drive better success. And you realize that, other people do have the same struggles you do, and have some same issues and whatever those things are. And it's always about working through it. There's always solutions and there's always a better way of doing things. So every concept and every brand I do, I try to make it better and I try to be smarter with the way that I develop it.
It sounds so intangible, joining different groups and being around the right people. It sounds like if you haven't experienced it, it sounds like, yeah, right. But like, I know you guys are in a group together, and I met some of the other people in that same group the other day when I was in Austin with Brian. And then you don't even have to be a part of like specific groups, but if you start to engage with franchisees in your own network, that's how JD and I became friends. And now we just call each other up. He's in my Rolodex of friends. When I need something, I'll reach out to, and we'll just randomly text each other and pick up the phone and talk to each other, about specific stuff or just to catch up. You mentioned something, and I just want to go back to it real quick about hiring. I'd love some tangible, quick takeaways. If you could give me just a couple things on hiring the right people.
Yeah, it's not a perfect science. I've actually, I could grab it, but I've had somebody that actually, gave me a good book, which was Hiring the Best. Again, I think hiring is so important across the board. It's so funny is just yesterday at our team meeting, we talked, how can we train and have a more in-depth training on hiring? I think also with the franchisees and people that we've worked with, we've put more focus on hiring, because all the way down to, doesn't matter if it's a front desk person, salesperson, trainer, whatever industry you're in, every single hire and making sure that they do have the same mindset, the personalities, because I think the biggest thing is when you work together as a team is really building that, the team effort, that you're basically all thinking and kind of aligned and all trying to go on the same path. And I think before I was so spread out, I was hiring great people, but we weren't working together as a team and kind of focused and looking at long-term, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals. When I first started, probably my first 10 years, I didn't know what a goal was. I was just trying to do everything I could the best way possible. And now everything is so planned out. And yes, things like COVID, completely wreck things and change it. But again, I think when you have the right team, you work through it. You just have to really go through and dig in. And I just had a 2-day planning meeting with my team just last month, and we planned out next year's goals. We have A, B, C, and plan, which we've never done before. What happens if we get locked down again? What happens if, we can't get our staff back? All these different things that, we really work through now and work through together to be better prepared if there's even such a thing. Because I don't think anybody here ever thought that we'd have a world shutdown. I mean, a world shutdown. And I'm doing international stuff as well now, and it's just shocking. Or I guess I should say, not shocking. I would have never in my life ever thought we were where we are today. And again, I think my team is the reason why we're coming out of it as strong as we can. I mean, we're not anywhere near where we used to be, but we're working through it, and we're trying to be better with the way we hire even now. I mean, it's been, I don't know about you guys, but it's been very difficult to hire in this environment and to get really good people, because people, are scared. There's a big portion of people out there. There's people, their schools aren't back in, so they have kids and they can't get back to work the way you want them. So we've really worked through a lot, and that same thing. We planned for, I guess, every and anything that could happen. And what would you do if there was another shutdown? I mean, California, I'm just feel for you guys. I spoke with, very large South California regional developer that has 5 different brands. I got them into the brand as well. And I mean, it's horrible. I mean, they're shut back down again, and I feel for all of them. And it's like, how do you work through a lot of these things? And
yeah, the whole thing with like diversification, I hear that, JD, because I was talking to some large franchisees with a massive fitness company that it costs a lot of money to get open. They're shut down in the United States, and they have other ones that are outside of the country that are open, that are helping them. So this whole thing about diversification is definitely changing my mindset on what true diversification really is. And it's state by state now. If I was to start all over again, like a lesson that I would learn out of COVID is not just diversify a brand or industry. Yeah, we know that, but what about from state to state? Or, because that's a whole, and then country to country, that's a whole nother level. Brian, any thoughts?
Yeah, I never would have thought of that before. I never thought that I need to have diversification by state. Like jokingly, I say I don't want to do anything in 2021, but we're probably 30 to 45 days on breaking ground on a new brand and a new location, right? So it's like
Texas now, though, so
in Texas.
Over, so
yeah, God's country. So so I agree. You do have to think about those things, though. The landscape is a lot more complex than I ever thought it would be. And I can see that the people question is resonating with everyone, from what's coming in the chat. And I kind of look at it this way. If you hire the right people, it doesn't matter what happens, you will figure it out. If you hire the wrong people and surround yourself with the wrong people, it doesn't matter what's going to happen, you won't figure it out. Right. So it's just an attribute. And you see people get in a rush to hire because it's outside of your regular job, right? And you're just like, man, I just need to fill a position, and you don't think about the consequences of bringing in one bad person and what they can do to your organization. It really only takes one to change the entire feel of your company. So
yeah, and I mean, again, and it's been extremely tough as well, because hopefully we'll get them all back, but I've had to make changes and lost some of my top people, and the goal is to get them back and to grow back to where we were at before, and have the growth that we want to have to be able to get a lot of this team back. But yeah, like I said, I really, really enjoy, and I always will say this, I love being the dumbest person in the room when I have planning meetings now. I really do, and to be honest with you, it's so much different because my team puts together the plans. They put together, the pivots or things that we should do, and they present it to me, and then we work through it and agree, collectively, obviously in the best direction we feel to go and move forward. So yeah, I mean, it's just taking so long, and I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, like I said, I'm just very fortunate to have such an amazing team, and like I said, I have no problem saying I'm the dumbest person in the room. The reason why I've had such success is I think I've hired great people and recruited and partnered with great people, like Erika said, and that's been the driving point of a lot of my success.
Yeah, and how many years did it take you to build that team? From first franchise to, hey, I've got the smartest people that could run the business without me at some level.
It's taken 25 years before it.
So
it is so tough when you hire the wrong people and you put so much confidence in those people and they can blow up things. And I'll do a prime example. I hired a COO basically from, Applebee's. That was the director of operations for Applebee's, and, ran a large organization, and almost lost all my team because of that one person. They all get along with him. He was arrogant. He was, I could say so many different things, and I won't mention names or say anything else, but I literally almost had a full coup and a walkout of all my managers and everybody else because they couldn't stand, working for him or doing anything, because we're such, because if anybody knows me or my background is that, I always say about the Energy Bus. It's the simplest, easiest book in the world. It's probably 100 pages. You can read it, a couple hours. And it's just been kind of my platform for every employee, because I think everybody here probably does EOS or scaling up, but that's for your corporate team. That's not really for your managers and your team. It's really hard to, put that around. It's like a college course, basically, you're putting people through. And to be honest with you, with inexperienced managers and or staff, the Energy Bus made it a collective way, an easy, positive way to approach things. Things always happen. People don't show up to work. They call in sick, whatever it might happen, but, approach it in a positive way and things will work out. And that's just been my belief. I think somebody said that earlier, is that through all this, it's been tough to be positive and have high energy, because I've always been really high energy and positive. It's been tough. I think
Henry Kim says no energy vampires. I love that, Henry. Hey, JD, are you going to stick around for the Q&A at the end?
Yes, I'll be.
All right, perfect. Perfect. Well, we're going to transition to our next panelist, and this franchisee, his name's Tom Hough. He is the owner of the Richardson Fit Body Boot Camp, and they opened up in 2016 along with he and his wife, Katie. They absolutely love the community and the culture that they've built over the last 4 years. This is one of the things that they say, our Fit Body Boot Camp and members are not just our clients, they are our fitness family. I love that. Here's something unique about Tom as well. He serves as a business coach for the Fit Body Boot Camp corporate headquarters in their coaching and profitability department. And I know your CEO, I know the founder, Tom Bedros Keuilian. He's a friend of mine. And we've spent many times just walking around there and talking about the coaching and profitability department. I absolutely love that. But I know you're here today to help us help the franchisees on kind of what we should be starting, stopping, or at least what you're doing and keep doing. So welcome to the Franchise Flywheel.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here. I was really excited when you reached out to Bedros and he asked me to hop on here and connect with you guys. So thanks so much for having me.
Yep. I sent Bedros a text. I said, who should we have on? Because I know Bedros he's just been a maniac, just one of the best leaders in franchising, I would say, for his franchisees and the corporate staff. So I couldn't wait to get someone that he highly recommended. So give us a little context into who you are. And then I want to just jump into it with start, stop, and keep doing.
Yeah, for sure. So as you mentioned, opened a Fit Body Boot Camp 4 years ago. Always wanted to do two things. I always wanted to have a business. I always wanted to be in the fitness space. I was for about 12, 15-ish years. I had a, regular 9-to-5 in a job that I probably should have had, that I was not passionate about. A little bit of a sad story. My brother passed away. He was 33. That was really my, my reason to say, life is short. I've always wanted to do this, stop talking about it and start taking action. Always had it in my mind with like self-development and the person that I wanted to become, but just, just wasn't able to take that step. And so out of something, sad came something awesome with our life that we have now.
Yeah, that's we all have a story, right? We all have something that motivates us to do something, and it comes a lot of times it comes from a place of pain and difficulty, and it's really what you do with that. Because I know other people that they would have a place of pain or difficulty, and they don't rise above it, and they don't help other people because of it. They just go down this this hole that they never are able to really climb out of. So that's awesome, man. Tell me a little bit about just like Fit Body, just your location there, and then like what are you going to start doing?
It's amazing. First and foremost, like you said, Bedros is an amazing leader. This last year has just been amazing watching us come together. So I feel like I have a lot of really good stuff to share with other franchisees on here, or maybe if your franchise isn't leading the way that you'd like, or you know that you're missing pieces, or you have really good ideas, I'd like to share some thoughts on that. Yeah, we've been having a interesting year. Definitely pivoted very quickly. We were shut down. We're in Texas. We were shut down in March, like everyone else. We were able to open back up Memorial Day. We've gone through a few phases of capacity and how many people we can have in our studio. Truth be told, we lost about 30% of our membership base. And just as Brian mentioned earlier, my goal for 2021 is, I was hoping to be back there by the end of this year. That hasn't happened, but by some point next year to be back there. But man, did this really bring out the best in people, the not so best in people, especially from I'm an owner operator. So really having that relationship with our membership base and seeing, again, the best in people, the not so best in people with, our business is a membership based business. So for the folks that left or quit, even though we had a solution for them, even though we led with leadership and positive mindset, and here's what we need to do, that was really just, they were going to leave anyway. And that was just the reason to do so. And I look at this, I've been doing this 4 years, which I know is not very long compared to some of these other folks, but you learn quickly that every business is the same. We all go through the same struggles, the same leadership stuff, the same with our members. And then I look at it as, now that I work for the franchise for HQ as well, the members that left, love them to pieces, they're welcome back. But maybe they weren't the most, involved in our program. The franchisees as HQ that we're going to lose, maybe their businesses weren't that great. So it's a thinning of the herd across the board, across the country, in all businesses. And I think what it really boils down to is passion. And if this year didn't test your passion with what you're doing every day, we all questioned it. For me, I doubled down and went all in even more. Made me really realize this is what I want to do, and that we're needed more than ever, especially in the fitness space with health and COVID and everything that's going on there.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, was there at the point when you decided about, I am not going to be one of these franchisees that's going to stick around? Like, what did you struggle with at different times before you were resolute in your decision and where you are today?
I don't want to sound arrogant, but no, because of the leadership that I'm surrounded with, the mastermind group that we're in, Bedros leading us, like, did the thought slip in? Yeah, a little bit, but like, I always go worst case scenario. It's the same conversation I had when we decided to open the franchise. Okay. My wife and I, okay, worst case scenario, we buy the franchise, we open the doors, nobody signs up. Okay. Nobody. Okay. We have to sell our house. Okay. Pay the franchise fees, pay the rent for the lease, move in with her parents up the street, and find 9 to 5 jobs. Okay, I can do that. I would be the best employee ever at this point. So not a problem.
Tom, you said something I think that is an important takeaway for everyone. You said all businesses is the same. And we've said that a lot, just on today's, Flywheel and in past ones. But I think one thing you hear a lot from franchisees is my territory is different.
Oh yeah.
And we're trying to make the comparison that all business is the same fundamental problems. And I was one of those franchisees at one point in my franchise journey to be like, my territory is different. And really, if we're comparing home services and beauty, then within the same brand, it's really the same fundamental problems, customers, employees, leadership, sales, like that's, it is across the board.
That's it. The funnel is the same. Where are your leads coming from? How many do you have? How many are we converting into a trial or a membership or a client or a customer? How long are they staying with you? What's your attrition? I mean, that's what it boils down to.
I love that. Go ahead, Brian.
No, go ahead.
When you were talking about like certain customers leaving, when we are bleeding customers from the beginning, like everything shut down, it's really hard because every customer is important because I think we start to see them as dollar signs versus labeling them, which ones are the better customers. So just give us a little bit more insight into that, because I think that's a really important point as we evaluate all of our businesses. And even as we're marketing, bringing new people in, that ideal customer, that one that has a 3-year window with us versus a 6-month window.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough one. So yeah, trying to separate yourself removing the emotion from it, right? We never want to get emotional when it comes to sales or cancellations or losing a customer. Hard to do, easier said than done, especially when we don't know what's coming next. But just knowing that there's, how many people are in the world, man? I mean, in my town, there's 200,000 people. I need about 200 of them to 300 to join my gym. I'm fine, right? So just realizing there's more people out there. And then I think the second part is questioning, again, your passion, the service that you offer. And is it, you know, is it worth your time to go? Like, are you so passionate about what you do that you're willing to go, okay, Facebook gets turned off tomorrow, all your advertising, like whatever, goes away. Are you willing to go knock on doors and get out there and stand on a street corner with a sign and go talk to people? And if the answer is no, because we were so catered, we were so, you know, cushioned over these last years with no real major problems. And now this hits, and I think it was a big eye opener for people. So as far as, you know, when we're losing those customers, I think it just comes down, again, down to your passion. And are you able and willing to replace, you know, be able to replace those people and to keep going and realize that, you know, are you willing to break even? Are you really willing to lose money to continue to know that your service or your product in the end game is going to enrich people's lives, which in the fitness game, you know, we're life changers. And so the answer is, oh, yes, it's worth it.
I think that, I mean, as I just look and reflect on my own, you know, and we asked it in the mastermind the other night, like, what if you couldn't do anything else? You had to make your franchise work. What would that look like for you? If that was your only way to make money and that had to work, what would you do? You would have a mindset like what you just described is what you would do. And I think we all should just evaluate, like, where are we on that level? I was interviewing John Hewitt, the founder of Liberty Tax, and he had this top 10 list that we went through, and we used to evaluate ourselves on it. So like, how passionate are we? How dedicated are we to make this work on a scale of 1 to 10? It's probably a good thing to ask ourselves. And we can always go back and look and see what changed it and what, and you know, what is increasing that for us. Like we all get into business. We think, you know, no matter what, I'm going to make this work. And then life happens. And then you really get to see who's going to rise up and who's not.
Yeah.
I want to get to another, like, what are you going to stop doing? So
so let's hit this, because I only have a couple minutes left. Number one, what do you need to start doing if you're not already doing it? Number one, we've heard it a few times on the call. Guys, get involved. Mastermind groups, coaching groups. Here's your options. Number one, find a group that's related to what you do and join it. Number two, find something outside like what these guys do and join it. Number three, talk to your franchisor. Hey, guy, gal, we need some help. Do you think I could maybe lead a coaching group? Like, okay, so in Fit Body Bootcamp, we have a mastermind, and then we also have our CAP department where I'm a coach. And just like anything in life though, team, when you pay attention. I will tell you that, you know, the folks that get involved in our CAP calls, which are free, they can call me for free. We'll hop on the phone. I'll help you with whatever you want. You know, a little bit less, unfortunately, less engagement in that than in our mastermind group where folks are paying. You guys are laughing because you know that it's true, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Number two, invest. So invest in yourself, okay? Whether it is time, money, or energy, like every day, invest in yourself in some way. This year was the year to really kind of double down on that and realize that you're only going to be as strong as these, you know, 6 inches in between your ears. So mindset is everything. And this is a really good one too, gang. Treat yourself like an athlete. Look, I'm a trainer. I love fitness, but as we go into 2021, you start meeting new customers, right? We judge each other. Okay. I'm not fat shaming or anything, but if you don't feel good about yourself and your nutrition, your fitness and your life and your daily habits, it is going to shine through to your customers. So choose hard. Do
quick
something.
Quick time on that. What kind of quick tips would you give? Like, you know, wake
up early, right? Wake up earlier than you should, or you think you should. Spend 30 minutes to an hour, either, you know, taking a walk, spending time by yourself, attacking the day, get after the day. Don't let it happen to you. You know, Bedros is a big fan of, you know, not hitting that snooze button. So that is telling yourself you are a loser, and that 10 minutes of crappy sleep is worth, you know, you not getting up and getting after your day. So let that sink in. So get up early, challenge yourself, work out, go for a walk, choose something that's going to challenge yourself. All this other stuff that you don't have control over, it's going to seem easier if you're choosing to challenge yourself. And just if I stole your phone today and I went through your Instagram, your social media, or I looked at the last 10 videos you watched on YouTube, what would I find? Is it cat videos, or is it how to sell, persuade, influence, mindset, save your money, invest, right? So how are we working on ourselves? If there's a hidden camera following you all day long, what would we find? So just,
and guys, with that, like if you like you're wondering, you're hearing him, just go through these. If you want more of this, join the Facebook group. It's the free Facebook group. The link's in here. It's the free Facebook group. There's a paid version of that, and there's a really expensive paid version of that. And it's interesting, the engagement on the expensive side is higher than the lower, and on the free. But if you want like more resources, you want to ask like, where do you get these resources? Who's going to help me with this? Like, I know a lot of these people. Tom will be in there, so keep going.
Yes. So do that, invest in yourself, choose hard, so that when these things that are out of your control come around, they seem easier. What should we stop doing? What do we need to stop doing? Number one, what I was just mentioning about passion. If you questioned yourself this year, should I keep going? Is this worth it? Is this what I really want? Then I'm going to give you the greatest gift of ever. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to stop wasting your time, your team's time, and your customers' time. It really is. I mean, this was the year to really expose that. Money, we know, is not going to make us happy. We have to have some passion in what we do. So I'm giving you permission to that, gang. And I've unfortunately said this on a few of my coaching calls to Fit Body Bootcamp owners. I hear you. There's nothing left that you can do, or there's no one else that can put it in you anymore. It's okay to stop doing it if you are not passionate about it, and find something new. There's so much time in life. You can always start over. Number two, stop comparing yourself to other people. This took me a long time to do, especially when we're in the franchise space. Who do our franchisors always highlight? The top performers. And we think, well, they have it easy. They're in a different territory, right, Brian? Their marketing is easier than me. They close leads easier. They have more money than me. They must have kind of special gift. Guys, you follow enough people, everybody has the same story. They had usually something somewhat tragic or some kind of eye-opening moment, and they worked their tail off to get to where they wanted to go with passion. So don't compare yourself to anybody else. Stop waiting and take action. If you let this year go by thinking, man, I should change this, I should change that, we should do this different, and you haven't done it yet, this is your wake-up call. Take some action and change things. The big three, the 3 C's. This comes down to like working out every day. Control what you can control. I'm stealing it straight from behavioral. Control what you can control, cope with what you can't control, and concentrate on what's important. Wake up every day with that on your plate. You'll be good to go. And then finally, what you continue to do, serve with passion. I think that boils down. People can smell it. They can taste it. They can feel it. It's tangible. When we're passionate about what we do, or your team feels it, your family feels it, your friends feel it. And it's much easier to stay positive and stay passionate, and a positive outlook when we are passionate about what we are doing. And then finally, if you haven't been doing this, pour into your teams. We needed them now this year more than ever. You cannot do this alone. This goes not only for your team, but then also for your circle of influence. Again, joining a group, even if it's a couple of your other franchisees. Do not suffer in silence. As coaches, Brian and Erik, I'm sure you can attest, the worst thing we can hear is when folks are suffering in silence and they don't want to raise their hand because their ego is getting in the way. Ask for help. There's so much power in a 10, 15, 20-minute conversation to either change your mindset or give you some really good ideas on how to move forward.
Dude, I love it, man. We had a question from my friend James. He's like, I think we got it. Control the 3 C's. Repeat those 3 C's real quick.
Control what you can control. So examples, what time you wake up, if you work out or not, your nutrition, the amount of work that you put in the day, the conversations that you have with people, your attitude, your outlook. You can control all those things every day, all the time. Number 2, cope with what you can't control. Don't let your emotions get in the way. Okay, COVID. Okay, you're shut down. Okay, you can only have 20 people in your gym instead of 30 or 40 or 50. The person canceled on you. Okay, cope with it. Don't let it get you down emotionally. It's okay. Move on. And control what you can. And then number 3 is concentrate on what's important, especially this year. For me, what's important? Are these things we're doing moving the needle? as far as bringing people in, holding on to our members that we have, or can it wait until later? So control what you can control, cope with what you can't control, always concentrate on what is important and what's going to move the needle in your business and in your personal life.
I love it. And guys, we're going to transition now into some Q&A. So stick around. I want to make one comment as we transition. What we just heard is like, I mean, it's leadership. I mean, obviously you've been around Bedros. Bedros is one of the thought leaders on leadership. He's a guy that I go to. I've sent some of my friends to him that are in franchise, and they needed to talk to someone with that type of leadership mentality and what he's done, because they needed leadership in their life for the big things that they're doing, and they didn't have it anywhere. We had a call with Bedros, and Bedros is like, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this. And so it's obvious that you have been led by Bedros. And this is the point that I want to make. All of us on this call right now, we are leaders, and we need to be leaders to our team. And and we can be leaders to our team by not being the smartest person in the room. I agree 100% with JD. I said in one of the big masterminds that I am good at being the dumbest guy in the room. And I was one of the dumbest guys in that mastermind for sure. And yet I was really comfortable being in there because I wanted to learn from these guys. But anyway, you need to lead your team. And you can lead without being the smartest person in the room. Your teams need leadership. Well said, Tom.
And sorry,
Brian,
one thing on that, Eric, but you have to lead yourself first. That's
100%, 100%, or else, 100%. We can get it in, go into a rabbit hole with that for sure. Brian, I'm going to kick it over to you to jumpstart the Q&A or wherever else you want to go.
Yeah,
next.
we have a lot of questions in the chat. So I've been trying to keep track of those as we're going along with the ones that are in the Q&A. So if you have questions and you really want them to get answered, use the Q&A box because then we'll be able to see them better. One question I saw that really kind of stuck out to me was Carol, and she said, what's advice for someone who bit off more than they can chew by jumping into their first franchise experience, but purchasing a territory region of 6 and now second guessing their decision to go that big?
And as you guys in the panel start to answer these, just try to keep the answers kind of quick and concise so we can get through a lot. But I think that question that she
it's a good one. I think there's a lot of people in that situation, including myself. So I could answer the question. I think, if anybody, let's just have one person kind of take it. Who wants to take that question? Could be good for you, Erik.
throw me
or
in there.
JD. JD he would have the most experience with someone who bit off a lot as a franchisee.
Sorry, my thing off.
Did you get the answer? Did you get the question, JD?
All right, what was that?
Okay, so I bit off more than I can chew. I'm going to answer it real quick. You bit off more than you can chew. Guys, this is where it stems from. We get into franchising. We think that everything's going to be gone. And in many cases, it is going to be gone. And that's okay. So it's FOMO. We buy things, we do things too fast because we're afraid somebody else is going to get it. The secret to franchising is exactly what David Shuck is doing. You get a piece. If that piece is a small piece or a big piece, you get into the brand and then opportunities will open up. I learned this really early on in my career. And I was the guy that was wanting to buy more when I didn't have the money to buy more, or I didn't have the capacity to buy more. I was wanting to buy more. I was told, just wait. This is how franchising works. You buy what you can, you do really well at what you have, and then you start buying out other franchisees around you or their unopened territories, because that's really the way franchising works in many ways. JD, what do you say?
No, I mean, I've done this over and over again. So again, I think it's the same thing back to planning. So, I mean, you just got to really get together, put together your plan, build out, the best way to develop, sell, build your team. So again, I think the same thing I kind of iterated earlier is that the planning aspect of everything that we do now, even if you buy big territories or whatever else, is you still need to try to put together that plan. Again, without a plan, I don't think you can execute anything. I think whatever that saying is that's out there, that a plan can be achieved if you don't put it in place. So I think ideally, if you bought something in territory or so many locations, the idea is to get together, put together a plan and how you're going to do it and execute on buying, doing like you said, buying territories or whatever else. Where's the short-term plan and the long-term plan?
Yep, I like it. And
yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I could share. So I did the same. Carol, I did the same thing. So I bought a 6-unit development for a new concept, and like for me, it's there's two things: focus on the locations I have open or am in the process of opening. Really focus on that. Not feel too weighted by the fact that there's 6 that I've already paid for. Focus on the ones that are in my development pipeline, and then the other component is work with your franchisor. So they might have a process to help you get 3 sold and focus on 3, or just communicate with your franchisor and focus on what's already in your pipeline, and don't let the weight of the 6, really get to you.
Carol says, I wish they would have told me that. Yeah, there's so many
We all
guys
do
in
it.
Yep. We've all been there. So don't feel bad if that's you. Tom or David, do you have a quick 30 seconds of anything that's on your mind before Brian goes to
I
the
have
next
one
one?
location, and I'm happy that I do.
See, guys, that's it. You don't I know we wish we would have known that, but you know what?
Yeah.
If you go to look at your second brand, you're still going to fight that. Just remember this time right now.
Yeah. So the other question that popped up is where can I go to take the culture index? So cultureindex.com is the site for the culture index. And if somebody wants to work with an advisor, I believe that's what they're called. Just shoot me an email and I can connect you with the guy that we talked to. So he was great. You can definitely learn a lot about yourself. The value for me in the culture index is it focuses just as much as on your weaknesses as it does on your strengths. And I'm very aware of my weaknesses or strengths. And, I need to at least identify my weaknesses and be a little bit more aware of them. So
I don't know if you guys have used two, but there's also one called Zorkel, which is 100% focused on franchising.
Okay.
For you guys that are also developing or selling franchises, it actually lets you know if they have the mindset to be a single unit, a multi-unit, or even a region developer. So it actually goes through and looks at, does this person even have the capabilities of doing a multi-unit, and or do they need more training or aspects on that? And also, like for me, which is really good because I didn't even talk about this. I'm going bigger than I ever have. I've actually bought the whole US for a brand that I'm looking to develop. So talking about a few states, I didn't even get into the fact that I just bought our partnered with the concept to develop the whole US. So obviously I'll be actually selling, area developers as well. And that's one of the tools that I use that really identifies, do we have the right personality matches? I think it's very key to have alignment with your franchisees, your area developers, and so on. So that Zorkel profile has really helped me with identifying, do they have the mindset and means to actually even do a multi-unit or development area?
I'll post a link on that. Yep. I've used that one in the past too, as well. JD, Brian, do you have any questions teed up? Because if you don't, I can talk.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Leadership. I want, what is the biggest, let's go back to the best thing that happened in COVID. Tom or David, what's the best thing that's happened because of COVID?
Oh, for me and my business was we went virtual, and I now can coach people all over the country. It allowed us to open up and just think bigger. I always wanted to have an online component to my brick and mortar, but just didn't have the time to do this. This made it very apparent that we needed to do it. So I would say number one, personally, was being able to just think bigger, think differently, how we run our business, how we, coach people, how we acquire our customers was different there. And number two, best thing happened to COVID was watching our franchise come together. Beautiful thing, watching the leadership, learning so much from Bedros and our leadership team, and being able to be a part of that development and creation, thinking fast, pivoting, and working harder than we ever did before. Really testing our limits with how much output you can have, even though we're bringing in less money, and really realizing, again, passion. It doesn't matter. I mean, it needs to be done, and we did it.
Yeah, best thing from COVID are two things: was able to find out who's in it with you, right? So on my team, we've grown together, we've grown closer together. I now know who's in it to win it, who's right there, ready to lead right alongside with me. That's really encouraging when you have a team that overcomes. Not everybody was there, and that's okay. That happens, but it was a very clarifying moment. The other thing is, I mentioned it earlier, I really do view it as an opportunity to reset a lot of things. A lot of times when you're growing in business, or just in business in general, it's a very easy thing to get stale, to not have that next thing to go for. it's a really easy pull to be complacent. And this COVID has provided a big opportunity to reset, refocus, double your efforts, and find that new next thing to go after.
If you guys could each take 60 seconds on this next question, then we're going to transition once again. But what are you going to do in 2021? Like what? Wow. What are you most excited about doing in 2021? Because I can see it in your eyes. I can hear it in your voice. Like 2020 is in the books, and you guys have, going through this transition period. 2021 is a different year. What's going on in your mind with that, Tom?
Expansion, thinking bigger, realizing that the greatest threat that we've ever had has happened and it's passing. And man, if I thought I was doing well or doing, big things before, it's nothing. We made it through this. It's made our team stronger, myself stronger mentally, physically, challenged myself a lot this year. And so why not? Let's go, bigger location, maybe a second one, continue to invest with HQ, just continue to be a servant leader, a servant friend, a servant business partner with HQ. How can I help? How can I serve? One of the worst things hopefully in life has happened and it's over. I want to drop one more bomb on you guys. So this Navy SEAL, forget his name, wrote a book, The Trident. He says, in most of our lives, there's going to be 5 big, oh crap moments. This is my third one. Mine was 9/11, my brother dying, COVID. I know I have 2 more coming. I'm ready for them. Like, we'll get stronger with each one.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great book. I'll drop the link in there. His name's Jason Redman. He's been on my podcast. I'll drop that's franchisesecrets.com. You can check out Jason Redman. An incredible story. Thanks for bringing him up. Who wants to go next, David or JD?
I didn't get to go to the COVID piece. The one thing that's changed for me is I obviously traveled and most of the times put business first. And obviously, so I spent a lot more time with my family. That's one thing I've really enjoyed watching you, Erik, is how you're saying this is where I live, what I do, and I want to spend with my family and people. And so I think that, COVID's got where everybody's at home more. So obviously spend the time with the kids and family has been amazing and something that I definitely want to do more of. So I obviously want to be smarter with my expansion, making sure I have teams of people in place as well that can pick up that workload to where I don't have to travel as much and be away from the family. So obviously, again, with the pivot, I'd say the other big aspect for 2021 is obviously being leaner and meaner. Obviously, my biggest thing right now is to try to get out of debt. So I've been paying off or having a methodology to be smarter with the way that we expand and grow and not do it in the way of going and getting $5 million in debt tomorrow to do a major expansion very quickly. So obviously, same thing with me. I'd say we're doing a more very structured growth and making sure that we're normally I jump all in and open up 10 locations at one time. Now it'll be a lot more structured with as we sell franchises, as we sell ADs and all that. We use that money to reinvest and be just a lot leaner in the company and less debt. I guess that makes sense.
I love it, man. I love it, David.
Yeah, very excited about 2021. Just like Tom, looking to grow, looking to expand. Actually close on an acquisition here in a little less than a month. Looking at some other deals. It's exciting to structure these deals to sort of provide a little bit of a safety net. So sellers are flexible. There is such a thing as a COVID discount, and very excited about the opportunities that are becoming available now, and I anticipate that to continue to happen. One other thing, I just think it's the coolest thing, Tom. I can't wait to connect with you. That you've mentioned 2 or 3 times about waking up early and happen to own a boot camp business. I think there's a connection there. So maybe that's the solution to my lifelong problem with waking up early is I just don't have a boot camp business yet. So can't wait to connect with you. And I think that's pretty cool.
Sounds good.
And he did say yet. So Bedros is probably listening somewhere. And so you probably already have an email inviting you to a webinar of some sort now.
You got 0 chance of getting David on the wake up early plan. So Nothing wrong with that, though.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, guys. Well, thanks everybody for their time. I really appreciated all of you. You guys brought tons of value and insights, and all have like different perspectives around the industry. That's great. So right now we're going to transition to Shannon Dorton. So, when I was looking at what do our franchisees need from an information perspective, I immediately kind of thought of like ADP and the resources that they have access to that we don't. So Shannon has been a payroll and HR consultant in the franchise market for over a decade. After starting her sales career with ADP in 2009, she quickly found her niche in building strategic relationships with franchisors and franchisees. And she has a strong desire for deep comprehension of her clients' ins and outs, and she's been just a solid partner for the people that she's worked in with franchising. Shannon, welcome to Franchise Flywheel. Looking forward to hearing your talk today.
Oh, there we go. Hi guys. How is everybody? Thanks Ryan for the very nice introduction. I appreciate that. I think it is hilarious that we ended the little Q&A on Tom's note about waking up early and snoozing, because I literally wrote a note to myself to mention it. I'm an early bird. I'm up in the 5 o'clock hour every single day, but I want to know what it says about me that I set my alarm early so I can purposefully snooze, right? Like, I don't know what that means, but I'd love if someone could analyze that for me.
I'm not going to go there. I don't want anybody. I
know. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. So Erik and I are going to jump off. We'll jump back on, after your presentation. Look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Perfect. Again, thanks for the invite. I want to thank everybody that's participating today too. I know that your time is valuable, and you inspire me to do what I do every day, because you wake up and you commit to your brands, to your employees, and the communities that you serve. So you inspire me to do what I do every day. I've been in the payroll and human resource industry for almost 12 years now, providing consultants to small businesses and franchisors and franchisees just like yourselves. So I reside in St. Louis. A little bit about me real quick, and I'm an avid outdoors person. You can find me on the soccer pitch or on the campground. I'm an avid backpacker, long distance hiker. Sitting here at this desk every day, I need to get outside and feel the sun on my skin. But I also, since I do work for ADP, this big bad corporate America, I do have to give a disclaimer that nothing I say today should be construed as like legal, professional, tax advice, political opinion, or the final word on any topic. It's just little old me, Shannon, giving you some insight to what I see in the field day in and day out. I hope to go really granular in my 20 minutes for you today and give you solid tactical takeaways of things that you can explore or look into as you plan for 2021. So real human capital management company that operates in 140 countries and has about 160,000 clients. And inside the big bubble of ADP, we have a smaller channel of franchise, and that is where I sit and work every single day. So we have franchise councils, advisors, developers, research teams that work to really hone in on what our franchisors need, as in like a technology stack or solutions that they can offer you, the franchisees. We have about 450 relationships we work with today, and then about 30,000 franchisees that are using some of the product sets that we put in place. So every single month we mine that data and we publish a national employment report. And then we also do a subset one just for franchise. So I went back and looked at the franchise growth and negative employment gains over the course of the year since COVID happened for us. And in the franchise segment alone, we lost 1.1 million jobs between March and April. So March and April, May, obviously a huge downtick in our industry, but then June, July, August, we started having some slow growth again, about 20,000 new jobs each month. And then in October and November, it kind of shot up again. We've got about 80,000 new jobs just in the franchise segment. So we're trending in the right direction, but we are nowhere near pre-COVID levels by any measure. So you take the muddy waters of the unemployment, the jobs lost, the jobs gained, and then you add in different states of businesses that our clients can be, or you guys can be in. So you might be an essential business, the ones we all know that stayed open to help our communities survive during the pandemic. So of course, all of our healthcare companies, grocery stores, delivery services, and such. You could be in the middle as a struggling business where you are suffering from completely diminished or completely shut off revenue streams. Those we know, gyms, apparently Tom's doing okay though, but we have gyms, we have restaurants, salon spas, and all of that like. Or you could be in a state of business where you're evolving. So think about your warehousers and your online retailers that have drastically adopted and innovated new technologies just to maintain themselves, to keep up with the opportunities that are presented to themselves. So we have the unemployment issue, and then we have the different states of business. And then I know we've talked about the different phases of reopening. So some are experiencing lockdown and can't operate today. Some have been open at a reduced or virtual environment throughout the course of the year. What we did at ADP was reach out to all of our business owners to figure out what are the things that keep them up at night during the pandemic. What are the things that we can help with the most? And we identified 3 major areas of concern. So this is where I want to give you some granular tactical takeaways on looking at these areas of concern and how they might impact your business and what you can do about it. Those 3 areas were legislation, business continuity, and talent, are your employees. So all things that we have talked about already today. So I'm glad to know that what I'm saying aligns with things that we've already having conversation about. But 78% of our business owners said, I think it's going to take 6 months or more for me to get my revenue streams back to what they were pre-COVID. Now, sitting here in December, we all know that 6 months was like rose-colored glasses for a lot of businesses. The or longer is more likely going to apply for everyone. 68% of them, so 78 are concerned about continuity, 68% are concerned about compliance. What are these new laws that have passed? How do they impact me? And what do I need to do about them? And then 40% are concerned about the health and wellness of their employees, so taking care of your talent. So I want to go deep into each of these with the time that I have left. So I'll start with the sexiest of the bunch, legislation. So we all know that historic legislative acts have passed this year in record time, right? So we have the FFCRA, we have the CARES Act that has passed. You guys might know that most from PPP loans that you were able to take advantage of as part of the CARES Act that came down. But it's important to know that we were having regulatory conversations well before COVID came, and passing these acts is going to have long-term impacts on future issues that might come to light. So for example, keep your ear on the pulse of what minimum wage requirements might be in your area, what new employee leave policies you should be implementing, and even different designations. So 1099 versus W-2 employees. This is driven largely by the gig economy. So basically, what do you need to do as it relates to legislation and compliance? You need to find a third-party partner that helps you understand it and tells you and provides you guidance on how to implement it. There's this thing in the franchise world that is this very ambiguous topic called joint employer. It's very gray because no one really knows exactly where it stands. But basically, joint employer is 2 business entities, your franchisor and a franchisee, sharing control or supervision or liability of an employee's activities. And what it does to the franchisors is it makes them very nervous. Some franchisors have indicated that they are concerned with giving out guidance or advice along certain topics to franchisees because it makes them liable to these joint employer regulations, and it scares them, understandably so. So my advice to you is to take understanding the law into your own hands. Find a third-party partner that can help you at your region or state level. Payroll companies like mine or ones that you might be using often have HR tools that you can tap into. So HR help desks, checklists, forms, and documents that are available to you. CPA firms offer advisory services that you could check out. And then there are HR companies that you could consult with or contract with to provide you the guidance. Once you find a partner, now you have policies that you have to change, right? So how does your attendance policy change? How does your dress code policy change? I'd be willing to bet that before March, you may not have required PPE, but now you do. And that should be reflected in your policies that you have. And then to take that even a step further, these policies should be in a handbook for you as well. So I also have 3 C's to talk about as it relates to handbooks. I'm a huge advocate of it because it really protects the franchisees and our employers from, it really mitigates risks, protects you from all liabilities. So the 3 C's of a value of a handbook. One, consistency. There's absolutely no better way to promote an equal, non-discriminatory workforce than having a clearly written and communicated handbook. The second one is communication. This handbook provides your employees a tool to answer their frequently asked questions, and it sets proper expectations around what you can expect from them and their day-to-day functions at work. And it gives your managers and your supervisors a roadmap on how to handle policy or performance violations. And then the third C is compliance. There is literally not a better way to show your commitment to abiding by federal, state, and local laws than by having a handbook with these policies in place that you are distributing en masse to your employees. So find a company that can help you understand the laws and what you need to do about them. To update your policies in your handbook and make sure to distribute that to your employees. And then my third takeaway for compliance and legality and legislation is be open and communicative with your employees. So find a tool that allows you to communicate in a proactive manner with your staff. So there was a poll, and I'm sorry, the source is slipping me right now, but it said that 41% of Americans said there could have been better communication to them around how to manage their business and what the environment was going to look like during COVID. So I'll say it 100 times. I say it to business owners all the time. Open communication is the solid foundation to a good employment relationship. So I'm going to pivot and give you guys a website here real quick. Marketplace.adp.com. This is essentially a digital HR storefront that provides solutions that run the gamut of an employee lifecycle. So yes, it's an ADP portal. No, you do not have to be a partner of ADP. No, you do not have to use any of the programs or the solutions that we promote on there. But I'm giving it to you as a tool to start your research as you look to implement some of these things or consider implementing some of the things that I'm talking about today. So marketplace.adp.com. So for example, I could go on the marketplace and I could say, I'm a small business and I need tools to help me communicate with my employees. Pop it in the search box and you are going to get solutions that have already been vetted out by us, so you know they're legitimate, that you can start your research with. So if I do that, for example, I'm going to have companies like Beekeeper and WorkJam that might come up, which allow me to communicate with my employees in real time with real data. So the communication is super important, especially as things are constantly changing inside of your organization. The second thing, talent. That was the other thing that keeps employees up at night or employers up at night. And we've talked a lot about the talent today. So there are a couple aspects of this. One, it's getting the right talent on board. And then two, keeping that talent, right? Turnover is really, really expensive. And unfortunately, in the franchise industry, we see a lot of turnover. So 85% of businesses, it's a Gartner Inc. poll that I read not that long ago, 85% of businesses are implementing new technologies for recruiting and onboarding. So almost everybody is doing it, you guys, but basically you need to up your efficiencies and get yourselves exposed out to more top talent, right? So use tools like ZipRecruiter, CareerPlug, Jazz HR. They have applicant tracking systems. You can post job openings faster. You can have help screening the resumes. You can do virtual interviews. And they're often benchmarking tools, so you have an idea or a measure that the package that you are offering for that position is competitive in your market. And then once you get these people hired, utilize tools in your payroll or your POS or your HR systems for easy and digital onboarding. So long gone are the days where people are coming into the office for the first day or coming into your location for the first day and saying, sitting down and filling out all the paperwork and bringing everything that they need, right? You need to be able to send them a link and then allow them to complete everything ahead of time. So when they come in, they have a clear start to working with you and you set a really high expectation and precedence of the way that you're going to operate your business with them. And then the third, or once they're on board, you have to keep them, right? So we have seen a 40% uptick in business owners asking us, how do they handle PTO requests? What is an EAP? How can they offer it? And what are some other benefits that they can offer to their employees? So an EAP is a really great place to start. It's an employee assistance program. And basically it offers, it's a benefit to your employees that offer them a place to go when they need childcare, like finding assistance. If they need legal or financial advice, that's a place to go. They can also have get mental health counseling through there as well. So EAPs are a really robust program that you can offer, but there are other solutions. If that's too much or too daunting for some small business owners, there are companies like Integrity that offer 24/7 virtual access to mental health counselors, to board certified physicians. They have discounts on prescriptions for people and for pets. They have a whole COVID arm, right? So this is one of the partners on the marketplace, but they make great sense for the franchise industry. For businesses that might have a lot of part-time employees or a lot of turnover, this is a very, very affordable benefit that can increase employee engagement and happiness and satisfaction at the job. On the flip side, real quick, I wanted to let you know that I don't know who knows this, but the number one benefit that millennials are looking for is student loan assistance. So there is an app that we partner with. It's called Peanut Butter. Check it out, begin your research there. But it basically is a admin portal that lets you set up assisting your employees with their student loan payments, or putting in place a company-sponsored student loan repayment program. So you have to adapt your offerings to the marketplace. There's a record number of people out there that are looking for jobs right now, so you need to get the right people. And to do that, you need to offer the benefits that they are looking for. So top takeaways from talent: staff up efficiently and effectively by using new technology, and then care about your people once they're on board, right? Show them that you care. And then finally, business continuity. What do you have to do for that? And I know I have just a few minutes, but essentially it is continuing to run your business in this like ever evolving fluid environment. So a few key pieces of takeaway here are to create a nimble environment with a lot of redundancies in place. So I know a lot of franchisees have mandated POS systems that you might use for clocking in, clocking out, scheduling, and all of that. But does your POS system talk to your payroll system? And if not, consider shopping around. Having the time and payroll workflows automated will save you time, and it's going to give you accurate results for payroll every single week or every single pay run. And then speaking of payroll, nobody wants a disruption in their pay. So I hope everybody on here is digital or electronic in their payroll. Pay cards, direct deposit, it's the way to go. Cutting checks and handing them out to employees is kind of a thing of the past. And then in a similar mindset, consider doing employee self-service or like a mobile app. Put the checks and the W-2 statements and the ability to change personal data in the palm of the hands of your employees, and you will not look back. And then lastly, something else I could recommend in business continuity is considering additional or alternative timekeeping options. So again, I know your POSs might have the timekeeping modules in place, but usually they have like scheduling offerings as well. So are you able to allow your employees the ability to switch shifts or request paid time off through an app or an intranet? And if not, maybe consider that. Are you able to let your employees clock in and out on a mobile app or through a touchless clock-in system? If not, you might want to consider that as well. So in terms of business continuity, I know I've covered a lot of ground super fast here, but in business continuity, just be nimble and agile, because if anything like COVID or any external or internal factors might affect your business again, those companies that aren't so siloed or antiquated are better poised for success than those that aren't. So I think that's it for me today. As you are looking at your business, maybe with the three things I covered today, you might find other gaps in your business as well. Take the time to shore those up as you move into the future, so that way you're not dealing with them anymore and they're already resolved for you.
Shannon, thanks so much for everything that you've covered, guys. Like, one of the things I want you all to take away from this is what it's like to work with an expert. This is somebody that truly understands what it is that she does and how to provide value to the people that she works with, right? There's, ADP as a service, but there's so much more to it and the people that you choose to work with. So right now we have a 5-minute break. I want everybody else to jump back on and be really excited about the next guest. It's Dr. Apollo Emeka. I guarantee everybody is going to walk away with some ideas and some inspirations from his presentation. So it looks like our start time is at 12:55. All right, guys, I hope everybody is as excited as I am about our next speaker. So Dr. Apollo Emeka is one of my great friends. He's a master of high performance. He brings the leadership and strategy secrets he learned in the FBI and the U.S. Army Special Forces to the business world, where he has experience as a franchisee, an area developer, and an entrepreneur. Apollo, welcome to Franchise Flywheel.
What's up, Brian? How you feeling, man?
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I like it. All right, man, you guys have been doing an awesome job of executing on this, the wonderful world of Zoom presentations and juggling and all that stuff. It's awesome. I love this world. I love it.
Mhm.
So thanks a lot, man. Can I just go ahead and hop right in?
Yeah, just jump into it. I'm going to jump off and I'll jump in at the end to.
Awesome. All right, let me make sure that I have the chat pulled up. Because I would love to see the chat popping. Okay, I'm gonna ask some questions and I will do my best to pay attention to the chat, to your responses as well. So hopefully we can get a little bit of interaction going, like we were in real life. All right, I'm gonna share a couple of things. So you're gonna get to watch my juggling skills here on Zoom. Okay, so like he said, my name is Apollo Emeka, and I'll get into my background more in just a second, but I am a high performance expert. So I specialize in helping to build up high performance leaders and teams. And high performance is like a buzzword right now. But you know, when it really comes down to it, what does it take to achieve high performance? What does it take to perform at a high level? So I'm just gonna, I cracked open my home movies. I have some fairly exciting, I guess, some, tame, exciting home movies that I'm just gonna share a couple of clips with you guys. Like I just came back from my vacation and we're all sitting in my living room looking at a slideshow, like it's 1991. That never happened to me, but I've seen it on TV. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Just kidding. I didn't share the sound. Here we go. This works better. I'm not going to go back. It's fine. You'll just have to imagine how amazing this stuff was that I was doing. Okay, more fun stuff. Let's see. This is good stuff. So I'm going to narrate what all that stuff was. Basically, if you're not familiar with U.S. Army Special Forces, otherwise known as Green Berets, we are the Army's unconventional warfare specialists. So that means we kind of specialize in doing the unconventional. So there we were, jumping out of planes, riding little swift boats in foreign countries, and coordinating shooting and moving through houses and whatnot. So basically the stuff you see in the movies, you see on TV. My military veterans that are on this call, don't ruin it for them, okay? Like let everybody believe that I'm as badass as they say in the movies, okay? But yeah, so in order to do this stuff that's super dangerous at a high level, what does it take? That's a question I just want to put out there. And then see, another thing that we do is we what the videos would have showed is it would have showed us working with people in foreign countries all over the place with different skill sets, and our responsibility is to essentially train them and prepare them for combat. So we have to get, and a lot of times, these are not the nation's best and brightest. Like, we have to work with whoever's there, basically, to get them up to combat ready. Okay, so if there's, I know about building teams. I know about building teams, but just imagine being dropped into a foreign country and you and 11 of your friends are the only US presence in that country, and your responsibility is to get folks trained up and ready to fight a war. Okay, so what do you think that it takes to be able to do something like that, to perform at a high level like that? Okay, so now who is this dude? Cool, like Green Beret and everything, but like, why is he talking to us on franchisee Flywheel to a bunch of franchisees? So this is my background. I'm basically a 4th grade dropout, but I managed to get a doctorate. So for like the first 18, 20, 21 years of my life, basically, I was just quitting and failing at everything. Okay, I had like 0 systems in my life, 0 systems, but I managed to turn that around and get a doctorate just this last May. So that's my GED. I love this picture. It's my GED and my doctorate side by side. I was a Starbucks reject. Man, I wanted to be in the FBI so bad. Confession, it's because I watched a lot of X-Files growing up, and I wanted to be in the FBI so bad. And when I was, like trying to get serious in life, I went with my boy to go get a job at Starbucks. And I was like, hey man, I want to be in the FBI, but you got to start somewhere. I mean, I didn't graduate elementary school, middle school, or high school. So you got to start somewhere. And walked in, got the interview on the spot. And they loved me. And they're like, yeah, we're going to call you in a couple of days. And I was like, perfect. And then my friend finished his interview, and I was like, oh man, what'd they say? They're going to call you in a couple of days? He's like, no, I got the job. I'm starting next week. So I couldn't get into Starbucks, and I wanted to get into one of the most competitive elite institutions in the world, which is the FBI. But lo and behold, I was able to get there. So again, keeping this kind of high performance, what does it take to be a high performer? I went from being a no performer to being a high performer in these different areas. So what does it take? What does it take to get high performance? Here we go. Okay, became a Green Beret. Became a multi-unit franchisee, area developer / master franchisee. Maybe some of you are more familiar with that term, but essentially I grew my organization, and then I became an area developer where I was helping franchisees grow and develop their organizations as well. And now I'm a high performance coach. So I help. This was, working with a nonprofit. This was working with a museum here in Los Angeles, but I also help people build and execute on multi 7-figure and $1 billion business plans, taking everything that I've learned. I've created the Elite Franchisee Protocol, which I'm going to dive into like a sliver of on this presentation. And most importantly, father and husband. I love this picture so much. We had so much fun. Little COVID lockdown fun. Okay, so back to high performance. What in the world does it take to get high performance? Anybody, you guys can throw some stuff in there. What does it take to achieve high performance? Where are my engaged people at? Where are they at? Let me give you a couple minutes, couple seconds. Okay, so I think, Heather, would I be seeing this in the Q&A?
Nope, you've seen them. Oh, here we go. It looks like they all came through at once.
Oh, okay, boom. Okay, love it. Okay, so we got your clips are frozen. I know, I'm sorry. It's so fun. Just watch the Born Identity trilogy, and you'll pretty much get the clips. That's what happened. That's what my life. It's like a documentary on my life, people. Okay, trust, training, teamwork, commitment, ability to gain trust, commitment, guts, initiative, purpose, passion, focus. I love it. Oh, shout out to Erik, who says focus. Raquel says the ability to lead others to a common goal. I love it. Perseverance. Yeah. Okay, we got some connections happening. Make it happen. Connect, people. A clear vision, willingness. Yes, I love it. All right, thank you all for these comments. So basically, I think that almost everything that everyone said falls under three three umbrellas that I identified, and I call them the 3 S's: systems, self, and squad. We got a lot of people talking about self, right? We got a lot of people talking about perseverance. Oh, systems, Patrick, did that come in after the bell? Did that come in before the bell? What happened? Patrick is on it. So systems, self, and squad, right? A lot of people focus when we think about running a business, when we think about running a team, we think about these kind of mythological figures like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or Jay-Z, take your pick, right? We think of these kind of mythological figures. So a lot of people are kind of identifying with the self piece of mastering self. And then we had another bucket of comments that were coming in talking about teamwork, talking about trust and working together. So that's another one. And then the systems, of course, which is funny that we didn't say systems because everybody here is a franchisee or an aspiring franchisee, right? So you bought into the systems game, right? Like you're here because you believe in systems. So I want to go over these just a bit. So systems. What does every franchise or say you should do more of if you want to be successful? Anybody? I would love to hear. I would love to hear what people have to say. Like, what do the franchisors say that it takes to be successful? System. Yeah, man. Follow the system. How do you say the name? Kawika? Hopefully I got that right. Kawika says, follow the system, man. That is execute the system. Yes. Yep. Isn't that right? Isn't that what they all say? They're like, follow the system. So easy, follow the system, follow the system. What are you doing? Just follow the system. Oh man, I'm having trouble with my follow the system, right? That's the answer for everything. And I know that from being on the franchisor side and from being on the franchisee side. It's always like, that's the prescription, is essentially follow the system. But if that were true, if all you had to do was just follow the system, franchises would not exist. Okay, there'd be no need because companies wouldn't have to share in the profits, right? They could just keep it all in-house because all you have to do is just like execute the system. What's the big deal, right? If it were that simple, franchises would not exist, okay? So there's definitely a gap between success and the system, right? There's a gap between success and the system that they try to fill with you, with franchisees, right? So how is it that you cover that gap, okay? So this is so funny. This is proof right here that systems are not everything, right? Systems are not the end all be all. Right here, I have pulled up the field manual 3-24, which is the Insurgencies and Countering Insurgencies field manual, okay? This is not top secret. This right here is a picture of a Ranger handbook, okay? And this is look at the chapter breakdown of the Ranger handbook. Leadership, operations, that's pretty cool. But like battle drills, there's like some legit combat stuff in here. Machine gun employment, urban operations, waterborne operations, okay? And guess where this is? This is just on the internet. It's unclassified. The majority of our elite special forces stuff is just on the internet, okay? For anybody, for any of our adversaries to access. So if systems were the end all be all, we would protect this stuff a lot more, but we know that nobody can execute on this system like we can, right? So yeah, put it out there, whatever, okay? So again, we are looking at the gap, right? Like this is the system, the Ranger handbook. You want to be a Ranger? You want to fight like a Ranger? You want to fight like a team of Rangers? Go get the handbook. But I bet you won't be able to do it like the Rangers, right? So there's a gap between the system and success. So how in the hell do you fill that gap when the franchisor, no offense to any franchisors if you're on, the representatives of franchisors, but how do you fill that gap if you go to the franchisor and they say, well, man, what you need to do is follow the system, right? And I've heard everything on the franchisor side. I've tried for years to follow the system. I've heard, that doesn't work in my area. I've heard it's too expensive to follow the system. I've heard the math doesn't work, right? So there's a gap there, right? And some things, you know, like, yeah, definitely you can always work on perfecting how you execute on the system. I'm a lazy person, right? I want to take the shortest and fastest route possible to success. Okay, so I love systems. So always try to maximize that franchisor system. But it's not the end all be all. If it was, we wouldn't splash all of our awesome stuff all over the internet for all of our adversaries to see. Okay, so the truth is that systems are worthless without people. Systems are worthless without people. Okay, so again, that's where you come in, franchisee, right? That's where you come in. If the systems could just carry the whole business, then you'd be fine, right? Like the franchisor would be fine. And some companies go that way, like Starbucks, right? They kept it all in house. So they got self systems and squad all down, right? And they're a huge company that has not franchised, right? But there's always gonna be that gap, right? So self. This is what a lot of people talked about. They talked about determination, talked about clear vision. These are all concepts that are self-based concepts, right? Like being that kind of mythological figure, being that unifying figure. And it's true that your organization can only grow as large as you can support it. It can only grow as large as you can support it, but nobody can do this alone. See franchisor, right? Franchisor is calling on you to cover their execution gap. The franchisor is calling on your blood, sweat, and tears, on your capital, on your money, right? So no one can do this alone. Just like you can't do it alone, the franchisor can't do it alone, and your team can't do it alone either. You know, I've been really challenged thinking the past week about Tony Say of Zappos. I've read his book, Delivering Happiness. I took my core management team out there, I think in 2017, to tour the Zappos facility. Anybody else done that? It's amazing. If you haven't done it, you should do it. But it's just wild that this guy who it turns out is challenged on the self part, right? Like he was challenged. He was, he had all these drug problems and he had all these happiness problems, and he was really, really challenged, but he managed to build this huge team, right? And this huge organization that he sold to Amazon for more than $1 billion and employs a bunch of people and turned downtown Las Vegas around. But so that brings us, so if self isn't the end all be all, right? If self is not the end all be all, that brings us to squad. And squad is the key to your ability to scale. Okay, so if you can, these franchisors outsource this because they know it's tricky, right? They're going to outsource that. Part of the reason they outsource is capital, right? They don't want to extend all the capital necessarily and defray some of the risk. But a lot of it is people, man. They want these passionate business partners. They don't want to hire district managers. They want to partner with people who are passionate about the business. Okay, they know it's tricky, so they're depending on your passion to cover the gap, right? So what this means is that you also, in the way that franchisors are depending on you, you can depend on your team to cover that gap, right? So if you can hire and develop and support the right people, they will make up for systemic shortcomings at either the franchisor level or at your kind of like personal business systems level. And they'll also make up for your personal shortcomings. Just like Tony had all of these personal shortcomings, but he was able to build an amazing team and surround himself with amazing people to amazing results. Okay, so squad, that's what I want to focus on for the next 5 minutes. Is I'm going to hone in on one specific thing and that you can do to build your squad. Okay, so in the Elite Franchisee Protocol, I've got these 10 kind of elements under under the team, under the squad section. Okay, and these are the during. Okay, we've got before, during, and after, the things that you need to do in order to have an amazing squad. This is during. And so building rapport, this is all stuff that I learned and had to employ in my special forces experience going overseas. And like, you have to build rapport. You got to go into people's basements and drink their homemade wine and homemade cognac and all that. You got to build rapport. You got to build rapport by doing awesome work together as well. But okay, so rapport, it's key skills, it's self-coaching, rehearsals, what are called confidence targets, goals, autonomy, support, and promotion. Okay, so these factors right here, these elements are what are necessary for the during phase of building up your squad. There's stuff that happens before that, right? Like job descriptions, how do you interview, how do you hire? That's all part of the elite franchisee protocol as well. But we're just focusing on the during, and I'm gonna zoom in on this one element right now. So of those, I wanna talk specifically about rehearsals for just a second, okay? So again, there's 10 of these different factors in the elite franchisee protocol. But I want to zoom in and just talk about rehearsals for a second, because it's so taken for granted. And since the theme of this whole franchisee flywheel event is start, stop, continue, right? It's what can you start doing? What do you need to stop doing, like right now, like during this presentation? What do you need to decide that you are just never going to do again? And what do you need to continue doing, right? What do you need to continue doing that's working? So I want you to take that lens, those 3 lenses, and I want you to evaluate yourself over the past year with regards to rehearsals, okay? How have you done with regards to rehearsals? So, and what do you need to start doing with regards to rehearsals with your team? What do you need to stop doing? And what do you need to continue doing? All right, so you can write it down on a piece of paper and draw a line and just say like, okay, rehearsals, start, stop, continue. Here's what we're doing. So we rehearse everything, okay? Special forces, we consider ourselves elite, not because we like, do diving combat roles and like shoot while we're flying through the air and stuff like that. It's not that, it's that we are masters of the basics, okay? Masters of the basics. So when we get out onto the firing range, before I load my weapon or anything, I'm gonna do 10 minutes of just drawing my pistol drills, okay? I'm gonna do 10 minutes of transitioning from my primary, my rifle, down to my pistol, okay? With no bullets, just dry fire. I'm rehearsing, I'm practicing so that these skills become muscle memory, okay? And then I'm going to practice shooting really slow, right? So everything that we do is rehearsal and what we call a crawl, walk, run, okay? When we go to another country and we want people to be proficient at doing either high-level law enforcement operations or counterinsurgency operations, we have to rehearse a ton before we can just cut them loose, right? I think that for the Bin Laden mission where they went and got Bin Laden, I think those SEALs rehearsed for 6 months or something like that. And they still managed to crash a helicopter because the facility they were rehearsing at, the composition of the wall was different than the composition of the wall at the actual facility where Bin Laden was, and so they crashed the helicopter. They tried as much as they could to replicate the circumstances, but they still crashed the helicopter, right? So when we go into a foreign country, we are rehearsing everything as though we are in a combat situation, okay? And I've been in countries where the folks who we were training got 3 bullets a year to train on, okay? 3 bullets a year to train on. And we have to now, so they're doing things like walking around just acting like their guns are squirt guns, because they're not used to them ever even being loaded, right? So we have to teach them how to rehearse holding a weapon like it's always loaded. We have to rehearse and walk through the house talking to each other as we are shooting and firing. So that way, when it comes to the real life scenario, we will be ready, right? And they will be ready. So it's the same exact thing when it comes to your team and the key skills that are required to actually execute on your team. So how much rehearsals and role plays do you do with your team? How much? If calling people is a huge component of your business, how often are you sitting down and literally role playing out a call situation? And then how often are you crawl, walk, running it, right? You give them an easy call scenario where you're rehearsing, where you're role playing, and that allows them to get in the groove, right? You give them a little bit trickier one, and then you give them the nightmare customer one, right? If face-to-face selling is a huge component, if sandwich making is a huge component, how are you preparing your team? Are you actually, if you look over the last year, how much did you role play? How much did you rehearse? Was it realistic, right? The biggest thing that's important to do is to just get over that silly feeling. It feels silly and it feels ridiculous, and sometimes it feels like a waste of time to do rehearsals. But it is one thing that I guarantee you, if you take nothing else away from today, if you can just fill your start, stop, continue in this category, it's going to boost the effectiveness and the confidence of your team by a factor of 10. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. And it lets you interact with them before they're in combat. You can see how they respond in a practice situation, so that they don't have to learn while the real bullets are flying. Okay, so hopefully you all have those three categories. You have some ideas about, okay, for rehearsals, you know what, I would just identify, like, what are the key skills that are required, that if you do these things well, you're almost guaranteed to be successful. You're almost guaranteed to close that gap between where the system ends and where success begins. Rehearsals can close a ton of that gap, and it can free you up to do the things that are probably the reason you got to the business in the first place. You probably didn't get into the business to have to dive in to the front lines and have to handle a customer issue, right? You want to be sitting on a beach, probably taking phone calls, handling things high level. This right here is key. Rehearse, 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 and rehearse some more. Even when it feels ridiculous, rehearse some more, okay? 6 months for an important mission. How important is your mission? Is your mission in your business? Rehearse, okay? So that's like a sliver of a sliver of a sliver of the elite franchisee protocol, and our time flew and we had some technical snubs, but I wanted to let you all know that I will be working with just a really small group of franchisees, and it is by application only, because again, high performance teams and high performance leaders, that's my specialty. If you're somebody who has a hard time getting out of bed, then I'm probably not the right dude for you. I work with people who are ambitious, who want to take their stuff to the next level. So if you want me to send you that application, then go ahead and hit me up at hello@apolloemeka.com. And at 5 p.m. Pacific time, I will email that application out to the folks who are interested in taking their stuff to the next level. So I would love to welcome back Brian and Erik for questions, either questions that popped up with you all or with the group. Hit me, what you got?
Apollo, thanks so much for doing the presentation. So before we kind of jump into the general questions, I just wanted to kind of like add some takeaways from what you presented. Like,
please,
it seems like the longer I'm a franchisee, the less I think about the magic bullets, and I understand its execution of the most basic details that drive a success of a business. I swear I spent the first 10 years of my franchise journey looking for that one thing and realized it's just 10 better in each of the fundamentals of the business, it's going to drive my success. And once I accepted that, you know, it's interesting because there's a lot of work in those details, you know, like the whole rehearsals, the role plays, like they're completely invaluable, are so incredibly valuable, but you spend the time to do that. And so many people skip that step.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, you know, with special forces, we consider ourselves masters of the basics, and rehearsal, you know, like whatever the basic factors that are going to drive your business. Yeah, man, practice them things.
Yeah. And then you're just like discussing and showing that the guideline or the handbook for Rangers is on the internet is like, that is, you're right. That gap between the system and the execution of the system is where everybody's success lives, you know, and it is so trite and so easy. And I've been guilty of it to say, just execute the system with a franchisee that's struggling and they don't really understand, you know, what that means. So.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I mean, I even made a comment in the group chat. I think I did in the group chat. Maybe it was just a panelist chat.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you said that, it's so true. And I remember being in meetings where the franchisor was just saying, guys, it's not like we have anything that's a complete secret. Like, you know, it's the things that we do every day, and it's how we execute is what makes us different and what makes you different. So like when you said that, I'm like, it is just so interesting to think like the playbook in a way is out there for the enemy to see, and yet they still won't execute.
Exactly. That's it. Who's going to do it? Who's going to do the work?
Brian, do you have questions coming in? I am kind of locked up from a question and chat standpoint.
Somebody asked for notes.
Notes for the presentation. Yeah. Wait,
Like,
we will be sending out the recording to everybody after the fact. So if there are some details, we know that 3 hours is a really long time, or 3 hours and 15 minutes is a really long time for, you know, an event like this. So we'll definitely be sending the recording out to everybody so that if you did miss any details, you'll be able to pick those up. So, and
then I'm going to be going into like a little after party with this. So anyone that wants to stick around, I'll send out the Zoom link and whatnot. So, so yeah, let's get some, can Apollo share a little bit about his franchise experience? What do you want to know?
Man.
What do you want to know? If you have anything, I'm going to kick this over to Apollo, but is there anything kind of specific about his franchise experience that you would like him to talk about? But Apollo, you could talk for hours on this.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to know what the specifics are, because I mean, it was a varied experience for sure, with lots of ups and downs. And it's where it was kind of my proving ground, where I learned how to channel the things that I had learned elsewhere in my life, like in my, you know, education. Oh, I got you. Yeah. So, you know, applied my education, my military background, my FBI background. It was like a conduit, because I had this system, this franchise system, which was Liberty Tax Service. That's how I was able to, that was how I was able to kind of like cut my teeth in the business world and then launch out and do a bunch of entrepreneurial stuff.
When you talk,
but yeah,
just go ahead.
Oh, so it looks like Kuika asked, how did I apply this to my own franchise, in my own franchise? So one of the things is, you know, the tax business, you find if you go to a tax preparation business, it's a customer service business. And so one of the things that we practiced was just the closing the sale process over and over and over and over again. And one of the things that we also do really well in the military is what we call spot checking. And so I would, if there was downtime, or if I walked into an office, we had 7 offices before we exited. If I walked into an office and there was downtime, I would literally just say like, I'm a customer. And then I would sit down with them and say like, walk me through. And there was always this uncomfortable thing when I would do this, when I would spot check. But, you know, it's really the only way to know if people are actually applying what it is that you're teaching them. You can have a training session and then you just like send them off into the world. And then they just like get fight or flight, and they fall back on whatever they think is a good idea. So I think, you know, we had really, really strong training. It was a seasonal business. And so we hit them with, you know, about 2 weeks of training on the front end of the season. And then it was just about spot checking, and then also getting the managers to spot check their folks as well. Erik, were you going to say something?
No, you know what's interesting about that is we talked about customer service, and as we're, you know, building Mighty Dog Roofing, and I was talking to some other franchisees and franchisors, you know, it really comes down to customer service and just being able to engage with that customer. And it sounds so simple. We could really dial into customer service, and I think going into the deep dark depths of customer service will you uncover things that you're not doing that your competitors just might be doing. And so it sounds so simple when you say customer service, but I know what you mean behind that because I was part of the same system, going through the same thing and closing the sale process. And that's what Ryan Casey is going to talk about later with some sales training.
Love it.
But yeah, man, it's the basics, guys. It's the basics. You don't have to get fancy on a lot of this stuff, but you have to get really, really, really good at some of the basics.
That's it.
Apollo, I thought you were going to throw out there that it just started with like an amazing start because Apollo actually attended my franchisee training. So
it's true. Brian is a part of my story, man. Brian, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. He's been a big help, and Brian can attest how systems oriented I am, because I was like, yes, give me everything you have. Like, and Brian is the type of guy who will generate his own systems in order to close the gap. And I think that's why you've been successful across multiple brands, because where the gap, you know, between that system, the existing system, and success lives, you create these systems. And now with with Franchise Ramp, you're also filling the gap for other franchisees as well. So yeah, I've definitely learned a lot from you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, trying to. All right, now we're ready. So our next guest is Ryan Casey. Erik, you ready to intro Ryan?
Yes. So we'll go ahead and bring on Ryan. Ryan Casey is a gentleman I met just after COVID. So one of those things, like, I'm so grateful to have met Ryan because of COVID, because of the Facebook group that got started. I remember it like yesterday. I was out on a walk crossing the cattle guard, because that's what you have out in South Dakota, or cattle guards on a gravel road going to your house. And I stopped and we just started talking about sales. And I had a ton of respect from him from the very beginning because of a mutual friend that we had that was bragging on Ryan and his past world with Cutco into Orange Theory as a franchisee. And I know what an animal a lot of these Orange Theory franchisees are. So I got to know him really, really well ever since then on a very personal level. Things that we have in common, like just being a really good dad and going hard after being a good father. And then just learning from him in sales. He taught me a lot and has taught a lot of franchisees that I know a lot. So he just comes with a tremendous amount of respect from me and a lot of people that are in my world in franchising. So Ryan, thank you so much for coming on and delivering some value to the Franchise Flywheel community.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me today. I mean, what an amazing group of speakers. I feel very honored. You know, I don't own dozens of franchises. I'm definitely not a former Green Beret or been in the FBI, but I have sold a lot of knives though, right? I don't know where all the different franchises are at. So instead of just speaking specifically with sales today, I was going to talk about really developing your staff, and especially your sales staff. But I remember my first few months of being a franchisee. I was managing a full-time job. It was a huge workload for me. You know, my area rep, I remember him saying, you know, hey, once you get it dialed in, you can do this from Mexico on the beach. And it's funny how Apollo mentioned that, you know, being on the beach, and you know, as franchisees, that's kind of the dream, you know, sitting on the beach, mojito in hand, in between scuba diving sessions. You know, all our locations are operating without us. Our managers love to work with us. They never want to leave. You have PE companies lined up ready to buy your business. And, you know, I know that sounds attractive, but and it can be a reality, but it's definitely not something that just happens. You know, I think the reality is more, our reality is more like, especially when you're beginning, finding those general managers, dealing with turnover from staff, having your managers complain about the turnover in staff, and just constantly working on getting our people to do what they're supposed to do, get our businesses hitting the levels that we know are possible. You know, and I still see myself as pretty new to the franchise world, being about 5 years in with 2 Orange Theory locations. But I do feel is that I've found one strategy to help me get out of the day-to-day business from the beginning, really, and still have a top performing franchise. And that's really developing our staff and especially our sales team. And that's what I wanted to share today, were some ideas around working with and developing your staff, and especially in particularly the sales team. So one of the most crucial parts of developing your staff is having good retention. The longer your people are around, the more opportunity you have to work with them, the more opportunity you have to role play, like Apollo was talking about there. So let's talk a little bit about retention before I get into sharing a few ideas on development. And Shannon mentioned this, is turnover being a big problem. Retention is key. So why do people quit? One reason, maybe they're not making enough money, but that's true. But how many people are actually coming to work, especially your entry-level people, because it is a lot of money. They move on with their career. And, this is my favorite reason for people to leave. I understand not all of our people are going to be with us forever, especially our front desk staff and other entry-level positions that we have. David Shuck, I think, mentioned this today in his first message. Can we be someone who helps them move on? Could we be someone who helps them hit their future goals, maybe open up their own franchise location? And if we are able to do that, they'll actually stay a lot longer instead of shorter. And generally, they recommend other people to work with us. And we'll dig into that. But I think the biggest reason why our people leave is simply as their experience does not match their expectations. It doesn't meet their expectations. And think about, what are the areas that are the most uncomfortable for your people? They generally come to work with you probably for the industry. A lot of franchises, I love fitness, or I love beauty, I love health, so I want to go work in that industry. So it's usually not that. But what are some things they don't like? Most people don't like admin. Sometimes it could be the way that they're managed. And then I found sales is one of the biggest areas where it's that turnoff. As far as admin goes, it has to get done one way or the other. So I look at, can I build enough value in it that it's not a terrible thing for them, even if it's not their favorite? Working with the managers to manage your staff, really to not just manage your staff, but to lead them, to help develop them. That's a major factor that can really dictate the culture of your business. In sales, I've found, out of all things, besides maybe handling the overflowing toilets or something, but sales is the thing that our people like the least, at least when they come in. It's the scariest. It can be the most intimidating. They're fired up to work in your business. They think your product or your service is great, but selling's a little scary for them. And so this is exactly what I teach in the sales course. Many of you are either in that or did the sales challenge with Erik and I this summer. And I think teaching sales the right way is a huge key to having great retention of your staff. And the better the retention, again, the more time you have to develop your people. And the more you develop your people, they're going to perform better. They're going to stay longer. They're going to recommend others to come work with you. And your business performs at that highest level that we know it's capable of doing. So let's get into some development keys. The 3 keys I wanted to talk about developing your staff is developing your staff skills, caring about your people inside and outside of the business, and then developing their mindset as opposed to just managing their results. So let's start with developing your staff skills. Learning skills instead of completing tasks is a saying that you will hear me say constantly with our studio managers. I always say, I want our people learning skills, not completing tasks. I don't want our staff completing tasks. I don't want our managers managing tasks. Our staff isn't motivated to complete tasks, and completing a task isn't something that's going to help them for the rest of their lives. Developing skills is a different story. So if you want somebody to complete a task, just tell them what to do. But if you want people to learn skills, then it takes a lot more effort at the beginning, and takes a lot more thought into how you're going to teach it, but it ends up being a lot more effective. And this goes from everything from your sales process to taking out the garbage in the studio. It's about asking questions throughout your teaching instead of just telling them what to do. My goal for our people, and I tell them this when, first time I meet them, or if I'm doing onboarding, I'll just say, my goal is not for me to teach you how to do your job. My goal is to train you well enough so that you're the person doing the onboarding next time. And that's why I haven't done onboarding in almost 4 years there, right? The best way to learn is to teach. That's a common saying you hear in our studio as well. Best way to learn is to teach. Best way to learn is to teach. I want to teach our people once so they're able to teach the next person, and they take pride in it. They know that when I'm teaching somebody else, I'm learning, I'm developing those skills. And an easy place to start with that is just keep asking why. For example, instead of saying, hey, you need to make sure you take out the garbage twice, you go deep into it when you're doing an onboarding. You say, hey, so something that might sound a little mundane, but is actually really important is just simply taking the garbage out. We're a boutique fitness studio. Why do you think the garbage matters so much? Yeah, exactly, right? People can notice it, right? It's about the full experience. And one of the biggest compliments we get here is people come in and say, this is one of the cleanest facilities I've ever seen. I mean, have you ever been at a dirty gym before? What impression did it give you of that place? Yeah. So do you see how even if the garbage isn't full, but it has some food in there, how that could make a bad impression of our people when they come in for the first time? And then as a bonus, you take the garbage out, show them that you're not above something like that of doing what's right, and show them where it is. Now they're not completing task of taking the garbage out, but they're learning the skill of how to manage the appearance of a studio that makes an effect on the impression of your member, of your business. So that definitely takes a lot longer than just telling somebody to take the garbage out. And you could see how much time that would take, especially when you go through each step of your sales process. But one example we just talked about yesterday in the question and answer session was phone scripts. So we talked about, a lot of people do role playing. Apollo mentioned that. I think that's a great skill. But before just getting into role playing and doing the what, I think it's important to talk about the whys. So when was the last time that you went over with your staff, your phone script, and went line by line, word by word, and asked them, what is the purpose of this line? Why do we say this, right? And what are we trying to accomplish when we say this line? We often role play the scripts, but how many times do we really dig in deep there? Because if they understand why we're saying it, they understand what we're trying to accomplish, they're going to do a much better job of executing it there. And again, this takes much longer than just telling people what to do. But what happens is your staff sees more value in everything that they do. They perform better, which raises their confidence. They stick around longer, and they know it well enough to teach future hires. Now you are your manager. You don't have to do all the training. You can take your new people and say, hey, Carrie's going to teach you the phones because she's amazing at it. And Roland's going to teach you the computer system because he's the best here. And that also makes your veterans feel great. Your people become more motivated by the intrinsic things as opposed to the extrinsic carrots and sticks that we normally throw at them. Daniel Pink has an amazing book called Drive. It's basically the science of motivation. And he talks about the 3 keys to intrinsic motivation are mastery, autonomy, and purpose. And you're hitting all 3 of those things when you really help your people develop skills instead of just giving them the task to do. So after skills, the second key I mentioned was caring about their interests, their best interests, both inside and outside of the business. So if you were to sit down, or your manager was to sit down with every staff member and just ask them, how much do you think your manager, your owner cares about you as a staff member? What would they say? And I know with the group that we have on today, they're high-performing franchisees, I'm assuming there'll be a lot of good answers. But, we provide jobs for our people, but what else do we provide for them? They're able to work in the industry they enjoy. That's cool. But if those are the only 2 things we're giving them, well, as soon as somebody else in the industry offers them a better paying job, they're probably going to leave. I was really surprised that Orange Theory was my first venture into fitness. I was not a fitness person. I didn't like going to the gym. That's why I ended up getting this. I actually liked the Orange Theories. But I couldn't believe some of the resumes I would see where they would have worked at 6 different places in the last 18 months. There was just so much turnover there. So do you ever sit down with your staff members and ask them what their goals are? How can I help them with their future goals? Well, when we bring on future staff members, I always tell them one of my goals is to help develop them to set up their future better. I say, I don't want you just to complete tasks. My goal is to help teach you skills. I want you learning skills that you're going to use forever. I want my claim to fame to be when you go become a famous business owner or a nurse or whatever their goal is, that somebody asks you, hey, how are you doing so amazing? You say, well, I remember this one thing I learned back at one of my first jobs at Orange Theory. That's what I want my claim to fame be, is you go on and do something amazing. And I had a role in helping you get there. And I also emphasize some of the harder things that they have to do, and how learning to get good at those things is going to help have a tremendous impact for them well beyond this job, especially sales. And that's one of the big ones. And I talk about how they use sales for the rest of their life, working with their friends, applying for a nursing school or business school, especially if they're going to have kids eventually, but especially anytime I can tie sales back into their long-term goal, what they want to do afterwards, and how that will play such a big role, it helps motivate them to get good at it, to get through some of the initial struggles that most people have when they first start with sales. And I'll tell you that there aren't a lot of jobs out there that focus on helping their employees develop for their next job. You know, a lot of managers have the scarcity mindset, you know, that if I help them get too good, then they're going to leave me, you know, and I have to replace them with somebody's not as good. And, you know, then I have to spend all that other time, and all the time I spent with them is wasted. And, you know, here's the deal. They're eventually going to leave, right? Almost all your people are eventually going to leave. So if you show them you actually care about their next steps, though, they're not only will they stay longer, but they'll also recommend others to work there. I think for our first 2 years open, almost every single person that worked for us was a recommendation of a current employee. And still now, that's where more than half of our members come from. It's just recommendation, or our staff members are recommended by other staff members. They love the job and they love what they're able to do. And they love that they can see that we care about them more than just what they're doing in the day-to-day job. So as an owner, I would look at how can I dig in more with my staff to really show them I care for their well-being. A great place to start is Matthew Kelly has a great book called The Dream Manager. And it's exactly about that, sitting down with your staff, helping them accomplish dreams that may be outside of your business. So we have developing skills, we have caring about your people inside and outside the business. And the last thing I wanted to touch on was developing their mindset as opposed to just focusing on results. So most of your managers will probably say they have to manage a lot of staff emotions. That's probably what they do most of the time, right? As far as one of their biggest tasks. So you can wait and you can be reactive with how we handle their emotions. And after something bad happens and we have to manage it, or we can be proactive and we can help frame their thinking that will help them be more successful and also not have to deal with as many negative emotions. So I'll go quick Cutco story. One of the scariest things that our reps would do was pass out flyers. So we worked with college students. So a lot of times we'd go to the college and we'd pass out flyers. Hey, you're looking for a job, you know, call here. And flyering was one of the most scary, intimidating things. There was no reward. Like our people would just volunteer, just wanted to help build the team. So they weren't getting paid to do it. They just come to hang out with everybody and pass out flyers. And there was a massive amount of rejection. You know, we're out there a few times a month. So people see it, or they're like, I don't want a flyer. And I remember doing this, and you see, you know, some of your reps, they just get slammed and they just don't want to do it anymore. I'm like, I got to fix this. So I ran a meeting just teaching our people how to flyer. Right. It was a whole meeting, like an hour-long meeting on how we pass out flyers. And we called it the Fullerton Leaders Meetings. That's where I was running the business at the time. And we started with our team goal. And we're like, this is what we're going to accomplish this year. It's going to be awesome. We're going to do $1 million. And we need this big team to do it. So I started with something that's inclusive with everybody. And then I talked about what's in it for them. I said, so how good are you going to feel when you see that person on stage and they're getting their third promotion and they're so excited they got their third promotion, and then they come up to you and say, hey, you know what? I wanted to thank you for passing me that flyer that one day on campus. I never would have accomplished any of this if you didn't pass me that flyer. And I want to talk a little bit about what's in it for them, right? And then I focus on setting their expectations, right? You know, most people are going to take a flyer. If they don't, it's not a big deal. And then we worked on making it fun. And I think this was a big part. And this is kind of where the framing comes in, is a lot of people wouldn't take a flyer, and I didn't want them to freak out about it. So we came up with creative, funny ways people wouldn't take a flyer, and we gave them nicknames. We talked about like the walk around, the person who sees you from like a mile away and they'll walk like a half mile out of their way just to avoid you, or the moonwalk person, which they'll turn their back to you so they don't see you and don't take a flyer, or that my hands are full. Well, the mean mug was another one where they look at you like, don't you dare try to give me a flyer. And then there's the daddy pays for it, where the person looks at you like, I don't pay for college, I don't need a job. And what would happen is these people all of a sudden are out there and somebody says no. And instead of like, oh man, that person was really mean to me, they're like, that guy just mean mugged me. Oh, look at the walk around. And they were excited. We made it fun. So we took the things that normally would be scary to them and we helped frame their thinking of it. We put it in a fun way. They had a great time with it. And then as they were passing out, there's a lot of positive encouragement, you know, pairing them up with the rock stars. If they weren't performing well, people were saying, no, you put them with your people who are good and they're learning from them. And I remember we had 15 people out one day, and one kid comes out, he goes up to his first person and they rudely kind of say no. And he comes up to me right away and he say, I got to go. It's like, I thought you didn't have class for like 3 hours. What's going on? And now keep in mind, this was the one person out of that group that was not at that meeting where we kind of set everything up. And he's like, oh, no, something came up. I just have to leave. And he was terrified. And I want you to think, though, how many of your employees have felt the same way when they experience rejection? Maybe it's when they have to enforce a policy that isn't popular with your members. I know with the COVID, there's a whole bunch of new policies, and sometimes it's scary, enforcing that policy. So how much time have we spent framing their thinking and setting their mindset as opposed to just, hey, here are the rules, you have to do it. So with developing their mindset, I kind of broke down into 3 steps. And the first one is just framing their expectations. Managing their expectations is the first big key to developing their mindset. If your staff doesn't have proper expectations, they're going to be reactionary about everything. And what happens is when they're reactionary, if the thing doesn't go well, that's how they start forming their beliefs. If you ask for referrals and the first person says, I don't do that, now their expectation is nobody gives referrals. Same with sales. People say it's expensive. Everybody, oh, this might be too expensive. So think about the first sales opportunity if it's a no sale, how that changes their expectations for the future. And remember, people quit when their experience doesn't match their expectations. So framing the correct expectations is half of that. So an example, we worked with some massage envies. And one of the issues was with the gift card people. It's like those gift card people, they just don't buy. And so, somebody doesn't buy the gift card, the reactionary thinking is, okay, our gift card people don't buy. Or I can try to jump in front of it, realize that's something that's an issue that happens. And I got to really work on framing my people's minds. So I'd have that conversation with them. Now, one of the things we see a lot of here are people that come in with gift cards. And here's what they're usually going to say. They're usually going to say, I only want to spend my gift card. Somebody bought it for me. I didn't even buy it. I just want to use it. I don't want to buy a membership, right? Now, do you really think they're telling us they're not going to buy anything? Who might they also be telling they're not going to buy anything? Yeah, they're telling themselves. Remember, somebody bought that for them for a reason, right? And some of our best customers are the people that come in and say, I'm not going to buy anything. Because really they're telling themselves, they're in their head like, okay, I'm not going to buy, I'm not going to buy, I'm not going to buy, because they know that's something they want and they probably should get it, right? And now a good closing percentage, it might only be 50% of those, but just realize when people come in and say that, just smile and realize those are some of our very best customers. Now, because you frame that thinking like that, how are they going to respond the next time a person comes in? Are they going to be like, gift card, you take them, they're not going to buy anyways? Or are they going to get that smile on their face and say, oh, this could be a good customer, right? And so I just actually put out a quick video about how most no sales happen in our salespeople's head before they actualize with the customers. That's something you can check out on my Facebook there too. So after we frame the expectations, we then want to recognize what you want repeated. Now, not just the results. If you only recognize the results, that's what they're going to focus on. And that can also lower confidence, because when they don't get the results, then they don't feel good about it. But if you recognize the mental aspects to it, they'll focus on that. For example, instead of making a sale and say, hey, good job on the sale, you say, hey, I just want to let you know, when she came in, she told you, well, first you just ask them a question. So if they make a sale, I would go up to them and say, hey, you know what you did really good there? And they're like, what? I made a sale. I'm like, well, yeah, but when she came in, she told you right from the beginning that she wasn't going to buy. And it would have been really easy to just kind of mail it in at the end, but you stuck with it. You talked about her goals. You show how we can help her hit her goals. And what happened? Yeah. Right. And you know what? A lot of people who say that, they still buy anyways. Right. Or, hey, you know what? I saw that person making a bolt for the door after class. And that was really awesome how you went up, you talked to him, say, hey, don't forget, I can get you signed up for your second class. I wanted to show you something really quick. And what did she do? She just came with you and she talked, and you ended up getting her a membership. It would have been really easy to just let her run. And you know what? A lot of people, they're so tired, they don't even think about it, and they just make it. It's not that they're trying to run away from us. They just totally forget, they're ready to make a bolt. And I try to frame those expectations as much as possible, because I don't want my staff just doing the right actions. I want to help shape their thinking in a positive way, which will not only help them do a better job and stay longer, but it goes back to that last point of helping them develop skills. They're going to be things that they learn in the future. And then the last part is just reframing the results. So when we end up having a result that isn't optimal, it's important that we jump on it right away and we don't let that shape poor expectations for them in the future. So reviewing their performance, asking, what do you think? Hey, what do you think you could have done better there? Help drawing out the lessons. And when done poorly, though, this can make staff members feel bad or intimidated. They don't want to talk about it and they shy away even more. So one phrase we use in our studios a lot is the win-learn philosophy, right? There's no more win-lose. There's no more, hey, either you make a sale or they sell you on a reason why they don't buy, right? We don't do hardcore stuff like that. It's all about win-learn mentality. They either get the result they wanted or we learned from it, right? And it's helping you improve that skill level. So we really pound the win-learn there. And I'll finish just with kind of going through how we frame our sales process. And as I mentioned, sales can be one of the most intimidating aspects for a lot of our people's jobs. And the goal for us, it starts with the objective. Our goal is not to make sales. Our goal, and this is what we teach our people, is to create long-term members that become a part of our community and are constantly looking to improve. And my first time I meet an employee, I'll talk about how our LLC name is Kaizen culture. Kaizen is the Japanese word for constant, never-ending improvement. And that's what our goal is to have a culture of constant, never-ending improvement. And if that's what we want from our members, we expect our staff members to lead that by example. So my goal is to take the one thing, sales, that they probably have the most nerves about it, and to change that objective from something that they need to do for the business, for the job, and change it to something that they're doing for our members. Our goal when somebody comes in is to make them a part of our community, to help them stick around a long time and hit their goals. And then I take them through my 5-step process. And many of you have heard this before. If you've been a part of the sales challenge, I'll be pretty quick with this. Instead of just follow the scripts, make sales, handle objections, close, close, close. You know, this is what we need to do. We need to sell memberships, right? We try to frame their thinking with these different steps. And the first one we talk about is rapport. First thing when somebody comes in, our biggest step there is rapport. We want them to feel comfortable being honest with us. We don't want it to be intimidating to share some of their real true whys. And for our staff, that's not something that's as scary as, okay, when you first come in, get ready to sell, versus like, hey, let's make sure that we build a good connection with them. They're like, okay, that's something I can do. And after rapport, as their first key, our second step in our process is asking questions and finding out what the customer really wants, what they like and what they don't like, what's worked for them in the past. I know many of you asked those questions as well. And if we did rapport right, we should be getting more specific questions. If we didn't do a good job with rapport, we get answers like, I need to lose weight, or, I want to get in better shape, versus, you know what, my wife runs a lot and I'd like to be able to keep up with her. And that's something we could do together, right? You've helped them solve that problem. That's providing way more value than getting a little bit better shape. Third step, so we build rapport, we ask questions. Third step is we educate. And we want to explain our products a little differently to each person based on the answers that they provided us from their questions. Our goal is when we're telling about our business is that each customer should say, this was created just for me, because you touched on all the things that they liked and you showed them how it didn't have the aspects that they didn't like. And this really comes by crafting good questions, paying attention, and then knowing how to build value versus just giving, here's my spiel. I say it to every single person, regardless of what they say they're looking for. So then build rapport, ask questions, educate. Our fourth one, at this point, people should want it. If your membership was free or your product was free, everybody would take it. So if they're not buying it, they generally have an objection. And most sales, it's, hey, time to handle objections. If they say this, here's your rebuttal. Here's the rebuttal book, right? We don't teach that. We don't teach handling objections. We talk about listening, understanding where they're really coming from, understand what their real problem is, and then see if you can provide a solution. And that's a much less intimidating way to look at it than handling objections. I always use the Mike Tyson example of telling your people to handle objections is like throwing them in a boxing ring with Mike Tyson, say, hey, go for it, handle it. And they're going to give up without a fight. You've all seen your salespeople do that, where somebody gives an objection, they get scared and they're like, okay, they don't even try to work through it. So instead of saying handling objections, we talk about listening, understanding how to ask clarifying questions to really get to the root concern, and then providing some solutions. And our people end up being much more comfortable with that process. And then lastly, even when the sale's made, we're not done. So our last step of the process is reassuring them. Reassure and bridge is what I like to refer it to. And once they buy, we want to make sure they feel great about their purchase. And then we also want to bridge them to our main objective. So our main objective wasn't a sale. Our main objective was a long-term member who's part of our community. So what are some things we do? Well, we know if somebody doesn't book their second class right away, they're more likely to quit sooner. So, are we getting their second class booked? Are we getting them into the Facebook group where they can ask questions and see all this stuff and the announcements? Are we helping them download the app? Depending on your business, there's a lot of different steps that you can take that happen from the sale to what would make them an ideal customer where they're around for a long time. And that's our sales process. So those are my ideas on developing your staff. We invest into technology, we spend money on advertising, but I think the thing that'll really drive our business, especially going into 2021, is investing our time into our people and, spending it the right way, helping them really develop. And for 2021, that's what I would suggest, is really invest into your people. So thank you. That's what I got for today. Happy to answer any questions if we have some time. All right.
Yeah, Ryan, that was awesome. Just to plug you a little bit, I've actually signed up my entire Franchise Ramp marketing team to attend Ryan's training, and all of my Club Pilates managers. So, after hearing his presentation, it's obvious why you're a high performing franchisee. So, thank you. We just had our first session this week, and so it's all recorded, and we'll be diving. We have 5 more weeks to go. So I'm really excited working with the group. I've had some good discussions already in the Facebook group, and our Q&A session yesterday was a lot of fun.
Hey, did you tell, it takes me a while being in South Dakota to get like the Zoom to come over. I just see the wheel turning. So I didn't catch what you guys talked about at first, but Ryan, as usual, it's so amazing listening to you talk. Like I could just listen to you and take notes, even though I've been around it and I've heard you often and we did things together and I still took notes. You have such an incredible way of communicating sales to us owners and team members to be able to understand, like, we're not doing this hardcore sales thing. And it's really empowering, I think, to the people that I've listened to and had feedback from that have gone through your courses and have been trained by you. It's just, they're so empowered and their teams are empowered. And as a result, like actual numbers increase, like metrics increase. And I've seen those numbers and it's amazing. So have you guys talked about stuff that you're doing and any discounts that the tribe here, the Flywheel group, will get?
I haven't talked about it. I see Carol asked, what's training? Basically, I have a 6-week course. First week already happened, but everything's recorded. And basically, a manager or owner can set up 10 of their staff members. And we do 2 trainings a week. We do one where it's a webinar format where I do the training. And basically, each week is one step of the process. There's a bonus week of kind of like the culture index that Brian took. We have a core values index, which is more of a personality assessment. It's a simple one. It helps staff members be able to identify a type of customer and maybe speak to them a little bit more specifically to how they'd like to be worked with. And so each week we do one teaching lesson, and then the next day there's a 1-hour Zoom format with everybody's face on there who wants to join, and we do question and answer. So any questions, and each week it was great. Each week I'll send out. Erik and I did the sales challenge this summer. We did 5 days in a row, like knock it out.
It was hardcore.
That was a lot of fun. But with spacing it out, one of the things I did was just send out an email. First is, what's your biggest challenge around that week's topic? And it was really cool hearing a lot of those answers. And so what I'm able to do is, before that next week's lesson, I'm able to kind of weave a lot of that into and really handle the things that your staff's telling me, or you or your managers, owners, whoever is telling me is a big challenge. So that's been great. And I think Katie posted it up there. I had a Black Friday special. And so I told Brian and Erik that I would give the same pricing for Black Friday, just for this weekend for people that were on the Flywheel.
Guys, just so you know, like, I don't try to promote very many people, but this thing is incredibly cheap. 12 months from now, Ryan's going to be charging a lot more for this. I just know it. So what you get is personal attention from him. And like, there's going to be so much value that this is incredibly, incredibly cheap. It's a no-brainer to sign up for this, in my humble opinion. And let's talk about do you want to talk about the quiz? I'd love to hear about the quiz and like, what is that about? I know you've been working on the quiz quite a bit. I mean, you and I talked about that when you first started that. And so I know you've put a lot of time into it.
I knew nothing about the digital stuff back in June. So I've been spending a lot of time learning all that, putting quiz together and website, all that fun stuff. But I put together a quick quiz where the quiz is, what is your staff's #1 sales killer? And I think the link will be up there. And you just answer a few questions and it tells you there's generally one of 3 different buckets. That's generally around their mindset, around your process, or around the skills. And they all kind of blend together, but usually one kind of sticks out. And if you know which one, at the end of the quiz, I give you a couple tips on how to handle that. And then I have a free training on my website. I think she put up the ryancasey.biz. There's a video, which is basically the webinar. I know a lot of you actually were at the webinar there, but has a webinar with some of the training that how to overcome those staff killers. But it explains.
Ryan jumps in the Facebook group and then just gives a lot of value in there. So he's always like sharing videos and stuff on that. So a shameless plug for the free Facebook group, which I make 0 money off of because it's free. So if you want to join the Facebook group, there's a URL, but Ryan's active in there, and jump in and ask him some of your questions in there because he's very, very helpful. That quiz is awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And it's the quiz. It's fun sharing the stuff in the Facebook group, but also, Erik, I don't know if you want to mention that something we're working on for next year is doing the monthly trainings with managers. So, all the sales stuff, I worked for Cutco for 22 years. We developed young people, 18 to 22. And then my job for the last 10, 15 years was training managers on how to be able to do all of that. And so I think I'm going to be jumping into mastermind with Erik once a month for the mastermind members and working with your managers. So you'll be able to have your manager attend, and it's really like, how do you work with your staff? Sales primarily, but just in general, some good management technique stuff.
Because as you can see, like Brian and I are trying to do things in the Flywheel that add value to you as franchisees and your team. So, we've got more things in the work. Brian and I talk every week about stuff and how we can add value. And what we'd like from you, let us know what you need. Let us know some of the gaps that we may not see right now. So, reach out to us online on Facebook or email us or in the chat. Like, let us know what you would like more of, because we think that we know. We're in your shoes. We're franchisees, but we always love to hear feedback from you. So any other questions for Ryan? I could ask you a bunch of questions as usual.
Somebody said the link wasn't working, so I want to make sure we got the right one in there.
So Ryan, as you are doing that, what are the top things that you look for in sales rep to ensure success before the hire? So hiring sales reps, what are some of your secrets?
It's a good one. Some of our managers are like, we need somebody who's just a shark, and they look for that, 24-hour fitness, LA fitness person where their only job was to just sell as many memberships as possible. They never had any interaction with the people after they sold them. And we've had a couple of those people, and a couple of them were able to kind of shift towards our style of thinking. But a lot of them I just didn't hire to begin with. It didn't fit with what we're looking for. I like team players. One of my favorite type of people to hire are athletes. Especially if they were captain of their high school team or they played any type of college athletics. It's, they're coachable. They know how to be on a team. There's leadership positions there. That's what I want. I want people who are want to work towards a group concept, right? That want to work towards a team goal instead of just individual ones, and are also willing to work, right? Somebody shows work ethic. Also, if they are great at a musical instrument, they were top in their band or whatever, that shows that they can dedicate time and get good at something, right? I want to see that people have gone through some things that are challenging, and especially with 18-year-olds, that's not always their resume. If you got front desk staff, you're not going to see these amazing resumes where they've have 10 years of work experience. That's probably their first job or their second job. So look at what are other things that they've dedicated time, they've dedicated passion to, that take some work. And it also isn't easy. Just, you don't just pick up a trumpet and all of a sudden you're Louis Armstrong. They had to get through that sales process or that process of learning. And I know if they can apply those to our, job, that they're going to be good.
That's awesome. Great insight. Made me think a lot about hiring processes and practices, maybe even, prior to, and those people who have 3 to 5 years worth of work experience, and like digging a little bit deeper because it may not necessarily be all relevant. So at some point, this is amazing, but we have to wrap up this epically long franchise flywheel event number 2. I'm sure that Brian, are you going to jump into the community afterwards? So if you guys all follow Erik's link into the next webinar, you guys will be able to ask Ryan some more questions.
Tribezoom.com. If you don't get the link, it's tribezoom.com. Michael's in there waiting for us. I'll jump over right after this and I'll put the link into the chat as well. There we go. But yeah, everybody's welcome. If you're a franchisee, franchisor, everybody's welcome to come over, and it's just going to be real chill. We'll just be talking. Ryan will be in there. He'll probably get most of the questions, hammered with questions, but it'll be not a webinar format. It will be a meeting format. So everyone will be able to talk freely with each other.
Mm-hmm. So I want to thank all the speakers that presented today, like all of our guests. Everybody was awesome. I really appreciate you guys taking those time and like serving your fellow franchisees or serving the franchise community in general. Thought it was really amazing. I also want to thank Erik for putting in time on this, and Heather and Katie, our support team, that are the kind of glue that holds the whole process together. Yeah, anything else to add, Erik?
No, this is good. This is, you and I've talked from the very beginning of this, Brian. You have to start somewhere, and we all start, and you guys are the core group of this. Like I said, reach out to us with questions, with things that you want more of, and then we would love it if you shared this with your community. So we're going to send you an email. It will have the recordings in it, and then we would love for you to send out the recordings, a way to get recordings to your network, so we can have more franchisees in here. And also, if you have any speakers, if you have anybody that you think would be an amazing presenter, like Ryan on sales, if you have somebody that is absolutely amazing, please let Brian or myself know. We would love to follow up on that. We would love our network to become yours and your network to become ours. So thank you, Brian, for doing this. And it's always fun partnering on crazy projects with you.
Thanks, Erik. Talk to everybody later.